Oh boy, look at this table, my man. What is up, dude?
What's up, brother?
Welcome. We've got Paul Saladino, aka the CarnivoreMD, in the house.
Dr. Paul.
My beautiful wife, and Country, unfortunately, is traveling this week. And I know he wanted to be here for this, sitting here on this table right now.
For this moment.
God, guys, if you're listening, we've got a variety of, why don't you go ahead and tell them? Tell them what it is.
Well, we've got a variety of raw organs on the table from grass-fed, grass-finished cows. We're grateful for the nutrients they provide. We'll sample them a little later in the podcast, perhaps, if we feel inspired. We've got some raw heart, raw liver.
Gosh.
And lots of raw liver.
And the coup de grace, the raw bull balls.
Balls.
Which Roman noted earlier still has some pubes on.
There is literally hair on them balls.
That's your piece.
Extra protein.
There's a little story behind these balls, too.
There's a little story behind the balls.
You smuggled these from Costa Rica.
If there are any customs agents listening, I disavow anything I'm about to say.
That's
no,
true.
it's fine. I'll tell you guys a story. I smuggled them from Costa Rica. I broke laws.
He brought balls from Costa Rica, dude.
In his pants.
That's one way to get them
That's
here,
the way to get it here. You
Yeah,
can't.
they're a little oversized, but
Hey, it's just it's what happens when you eat a lot of bull balls.
welcome to Ohio.
Thank you.
You are living in Costa Rica,
I do live in Costa Rica now.
living the dream, the absolute dream. This guy surfs every morning. Let me bring the viewers up to speed. Who is Paul Saladino? And I want to apologize in advance. You've been on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Why are you apologizing?
Now you're on the Roman Atwood podcast, dude. I feel like that's quite the decline for podcasts.
It's never a decline. You just got more people to share the message with, dude. And more people to talk to. And we've had a ton of fun hanging out the last few days.
We've spent some days together. Paul is a rock star in this health world, in the carnivorous world. What do you call it? What do you call it?
I think it's just, when I went to medical school, there were all these names that people tried to have for different types of medicine, integrative medicine, functional medicine. And what we really realized was when something is good medicine, it just becomes medicine, right? So I would just call this health and nutrition. There's no name to it. It's just, you don't need to call it integrative medicine or carnivorous. It's just this is health and nutrition. What's interesting to me is how humans thrive. That's all there is to it.
Living your best life.
And I want to warn everybody here right now on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're at. This episode is going to be, to me, like a 2x4 hitting you in the face.
Hope so. I can bring it.
You have an unbelievable Instagram account, CarnivoreMD 2.0. Your first one was removed for why? Was that it?
Yeah.
Talking about it?
Yep.
And it just
They got rid of it.
ganked it.
Yep.
So sorry.
God. Okay. So, but your new account is now bigger.
Yep. Bigger than the old
first
one.
How awesome is that?
It's awesome. And I think that you learn over time. And now we're understanding how to deliver more value. But people ask me, whether it's here in Ohio or wherever, what do you do? They say, do you have a medical practice in Costa Rica? And I say, no, I don't see patients anymore. What I do is basically podcasting. I have my own podcast. It's called Fundamental Health. And then I basically do social media teaching. I'm a teacher now. I'm an educator. And that's where I feel most called to do my stuff. It's I make Reels. I make TikToks.
You know what's crazy about those Reels and TikToks? You are teaching. Here's the backstory. This is why Paul's sitting here today. I'm starting my workout journey. I'm months into it, and I'm committing time to it. And one of your videos pop up on my Instagram feed, just on their own. And I instantly screenshot it. I send it to my trainer, and I said, "Hey, this dude's 44. This is what I want to look like when I'm 44. He laughed. He knew exactly who you were. He has your books. And I'm like, oh, this dude's a big deal.
Sorry,
right?
Not really.
Yes.
Then I find out Britt has your books in our kitchen. She's got the Carnivore Cookbook. That one for sure I know we have in our kitchen right now.
Yeah. I've given a couple away.
So I'm like, okay, so this guy is in this. And I'm just never been in the health field. Never, ever taken care of my body. Right? And then I start thinking of what you're doing as this rabbit hole, right? Because you're slowly taking away everything I enjoy for health purposes, right? So as you guys are listening to this, I want to take it slow. I don't want to scare people off, right? At the end of the day, we're buddies and we're hanging out and we're chatting and we're having fun with this. But some of the things he's about to say is going to shock you. It's going to trigger you. Especially on subjects like coffee and AirPods and caffeine.
Vegetables.
Vegetables. What's your shirt say? Look at this shirt.
Kale is bullshit, man. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Vegetables. You don't like vegetables too much.
I hate vegetables.
Hate them.
I hate vegetables. I have PTSD from my childhood. My parents fed me way too much pea soup when I was a kid. No, I don't like vegetables for a lot of reasons, for medical reasons, for biochemical reasons, but we'll do it. But I think, I realize that I cause people a lot of psychological distress. And I sort of see myself as, I'm like, that scene from The Matrix where there's just that row of just people farms. And I'm just in there trying to pull people out of the freaking Matrix, break people out of those pods. And it's painful. It's painful when, when the hoses come off, when you're in the pod, when you're kind of a little bit blue pilled and you got to get red pilled. It's painful. The red pill hurts going down, man.
And it's hard when you understand it. And we're being taught complete opposite.
Otherwise,
we're truly being taught. Everything I learned from you, I've been taught opposite. Truly.
Growing up.
So when I see your videos, I'm like, there's no freaking way. There's no way. And then you break it down and I'm like, that all makes perfect sense.
That's what's so much fun. And it's heartening, but it's also disheartening and nauseating because if I'm right about even a quarter or a half of what I'm talking about, we've been so brainwashed and so programmed, and deprogramming people is really hard.
It's super hard.
It's so hard. There's a couple of, quotes here. Like, I forget who said this one, but one of my friends on my team in Costa Rica sent it to me, and it's the order of magnitude required to undo bullshit is a whole order of magnitude greater than it was to create it. You have to work 10 times harder to undo bullshit.
I know that feeling.
Than somebody had to do to create it. And the other one that I've been thinking a lot about is this. Joseph Goebbels was a Third Reich minister of propaganda during Nazi times, during Hitler's times. And he said, you probably heard this one. If you repeat a lie enough times, it becomes the truth.
You believe it.
It becomes the truth. And it's just that.
And it's opposite too. I can lie to myself that I enjoy work.
Yeah.
Back when I talked about this before, you can brainwash yourself. Actually, I do enjoy this. And even though you're miserable.
And that's why I think there's something about our psychology as humans. It hurts so much waking up. Deprogramming is so hard, but it feels so important to do. So it's challenging.
So this is a tough one because where do you even start?
I was thinking about that.
It all boils down to finances. It's money, right? For these companies to produce crap products, they produce it as cheaply as possible so that the everyday human can purchase it.
I think it boils down to convenience too.
Yeah.
It's this intersection, this really sinister intersection of cost and addiction as humans, that we're addicted to certain processed foods, and then convenience. And I think that food manufacturers are not scrupulous, they're not ethical, and they don't really have to be because there's nothing in the Constitution that says businesses in the United States or businesses around the world must produce foods that are healthy. We're humans, we have sovereignty, we can make our decisions. We are, in the United States, if you're older than 21, you can drink alcohol if you choose to. I don't think anyone thinks alcohol is a vitamin or it's good for you, but you can choose to, you have the sovereignty, as you should, to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of discussion now about legalization of marijuana or other drugs, and that's neither here nor there. But I think that there's something to be said for, cigarettes are legal. Should they be illegal? No, I think people should be able to make bad choices. But what's tricky is how we sort of really take that full circle and realize, okay, if humans can make bad choices, and you and I and your son, Kane, were talking about this the other night at dinner, there's a lot of food out there that's basically legal drugs, in my opinion. And manufacturers are smart. There's a lot of money behind these businesses. I mean, Kraft, whatever the parent company of Lay's is, Nestle, these agribusiness multinational corporations are smart. They have really smart people working for them who figured out if we make food addictive, if we combine these synthetic tastes to make it hit the bliss point in the human brain, and we make it convenient, we're good. We'll make billions of dollars. Billions of dollars.
Everywhere you go.
I noticed I went into the gas station yesterday. You don't really walk into gas stations much anymore. You just pay for gas, you leave. Well, I went in, and the first thing I thought of is we've been in a health crisis for years now, the whole world. I could not find a healthy food choice. It was Reese cups, Snickers bars.
You sent me a photo.
Potato chips. It was everything that is truly, like, nobody can say that any of this is good for us, right?
Yeah, even like the beef jerky has seed oil, sugar, everything added into them.
You used to be able to buy a banana or an apple. There was nothing. It was just processed food-like products.
You have to work really hard to find food that is even sort of healthy.
Is that because people won't buy the healthy food? Let's say the 7-Eleven down the road stocks bananas, apples, and liver. Does it just all rot on the shelf?
Probably. And so two things, right? I didn't mean to cut you off, but two things. And we talked about this too. There's no margins, right? There's no, what's the profit in a banana? How much profit can you possibly make in a banana? Maybe you could, but it's going to spoil. And this is the magical piece that the food manufacturers also realized is, holy cow. I don't know if you guys say swear words on this podcast, but I get so fired up. I get close to it sometimes. Holy shit. We can make garbage foods and they're addictive and they're cheap and the margin is good and it makes people go crazy and they also stay on the shelf for years. They're shelf stable.
Yeah.
It's the perfect storm. A banana's going to spoil in 3 days. Even if you inflate it and that banana's $3, right? And maybe it cost you 20 cents. There's a huge margin, but that's going to spoil in 3 days. So it's the perfect storm. It's the perfect anti-human health position to be in.
And we just love it. We love it.
We do.
Love the junk food, man.
It's just to get the next high. What can we make our brain feel that makes us feel good?
It's so addictive. It really is. I mean, just bite into a chocolate bar, man. It's just like...
Just a very short-term high.
It's quick. It's easy. I know when I worked every day at the factory, I would stop every morning. I'd get the same thing. It was a bottle of Mountain Dew and some type of roll that's rolling on the belt.
At 7-Eleven?
Yeah.
When they used to have the hot dogs
and
that
I would
roll.
live on this stuff. And I would just get my work done and I'd probably leave and stop again. And it was just habit. It was just how I lived. It wasn't until very recently that I've started to take on this chasing the energy role, where how do I feel my best? And the first thing I had to do was cut out processed foods, these seed oils that you talk so highly about,
and so badly about,
and really live on real food. And that's not always easy for people.
Well, what was it like for you when you did that? You know, that's the beginning of Roman coming out of the matrix.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. I've already been working out for probably 8 months. So this new meat diet is new to me, right? A few months old. As soon as we started this, I walked out in the kitchen with no shirt on. And I looked down. I said, "Holy crap, Britt! I have abs, like abs." And she's like, "You haven't been eating carbs." I'm not full of water. I'm like,
you haven't been eating anything processed.
Yeah. So it was actually there more than I could see. But once I started the meat, the lean, fats and proteins, my body just took shape, like shoom. And I feel better than ever. My biggest battle right now is caffeine. That is my kryptonite.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll get into this. Because there's a lot of people listening right now that's drinking caffeine as we speak. Mm-hmm. They have it in their hand. They're about to take a swig. And we're all hooked on it.
So here's the question for you, which I hope will hit with your audience. When you were eating junk food, did you realize how bad you felt? Or did you have any sense that you could feel 10x better? That there were other levels to Roman's mental clarity, Roman's libido, Roman's physique. Did you have a sense of that? Because I don't want to, I'm just curious.
Not until mid-30s.
Not until you started eating better. And then it was like you went back and I was like, man, I feel like crap now. I'm tired. I'm sluggish.
Trying it was eye-opening, but I was really hitting a point where I feel fatigue all day. I feel tired. I feel like something's wrong with me.
In your 30s?
Yeah.
So it took time.
It did take time. I ate and drank as poor as you can think of. Whatever I consumed that's fine. Bag of chips, down the hatch. Right? It wasn't until I really tried it and committed to it that I said, I have more energy than ever, which is wild.
I think a lot of people don't realize how good they could feel and how much they're leaving on the table in terms of physique, mental clarity, emotional stability, happiness, which is a cliched word, joy, meaning in life, libido. We don't realize how much we're leaving on the table. A lot of people might think, oh, I would not leave $1,000 on the table if I could do something at work that would get me $1,000, right? I'm not going to leave money on the table if I can get that. But a lot of us don't understand how much health, how much quality of life we're leaving on the table, because when you're in the Matrix, and I'll stop using that metaphor before it gets too tired.
You love the Matrix.
You love the Matrix. The blue pill tastes good, man. The blue pill tastes sweet going down. And you don't really realize how bad you feel. And that's the only thing that I can think, that people don't understand how much better they could feel. And we've already talked about this. You have to go through suffering to get to the other side. It's going to cost you, but there's a lot that we're leaving on the table. And the obesity rates in the country are skyrocketing, 40% obese, 40 plus another 30 if you have overweight and obese together. That's just technical and where your BMI is, where your body mass index is. But 70% of our country in the United States is now obese and overweight, 70+%. We have diabetes rates, which are skyrocketing, all chronic disease, autoimmune disease. Everyone listening to this podcast, I bet, knows someone with a chronic autoimmune disease, whether it's thyroid, eczema, psoriasis, fatigue, ankylosing spondylitis. They have all these fancy medical names, but someone, if you're listening to this podcast, someone who has a disease, a chronic illness, not a broken arm or somebody that's been in a car accident. Know someone, and that person is probably potentially in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. That was unheard of. 100 years ago, unheard of.
Diabetes in children now.
Yeah.
Didn't really exist 30 years ago.
It didn't exist, man. Look at childhood obesity. And then, this is the thing you want to tiptoe around a little bit, but childhood mental health, the amount of kids on antidepressants and the potential downstream effects of childhood depression and anxiety, and all of it's skyrocketing. And I think so I went to medical school.
Yes.
Really like 1.5 times, because I was a physician assistant before medical school. And then I went back to medical school realizing that I wanted to do a little more than I could do as a PA. So I went back to medical school at the University of Arizona. But I'll tell you, in medical training, so you go to 2 years of PA school, which is a master's, after 4 years of college. Then you go to 4 years of medical school and 4 years of residency. It's more than, it's like a decade and a half of medical training. And nobody, not once, was nutrition discussed. And not once were we challenged as physicians or physicians in training to think, what is the root cause of my patient's issue? It's just, and this is important too, we need to know this as doctors. This is the drug that I give in this situation. So we know we have knee-jerk reactions. You got eczema, I know the drug for you. You got psoriasis, I know the drug. You got Hashimoto's thyroiditis or autoimmune thyroiditis, I got the drugs for you. But we never think, wait a minute, why do you have eczema?
What's causing it?
Why do you have depression? Why does anyone have anxiety, right? And that's where I think I went left when a lot of my colleagues went right. And I don't know why. I'm just built a little different, or I had, some fortunate to have some cool experiences in my, in my younger years that perhaps changed the way my brain was built. But but that's the question I think we need to be asking. And that's the most important question.
It's in the medical, as far as diagnosing a product to fix a issue, it's just like that with food. We're trained at, like, if you're tired, drink coffee.
Yeah.
If you're tired, drink the pop or the caffeine. If you're grumpy, grab a Snickers bar. We're already taught way ahead of time that there's something to fix. There's junk to fix the problem. And what you're teaching is that these real foods are fixing massive problems.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be raw testicle and raw liver.
These are just
there's these that you can get.
These are for fun.
We'll talk about those too.
A lot easier.
Yeah, that's an easier way. But just, basic foods. But, this is the thing we've kind of been hinting at also, is that people may have heard, okay, vegetables are good for me, I shouldn't eat junk food. And I think that the first step, anyone listening to this, the first step anyone should take if they want to not leave money on the table, metaphorically, if you want to actually claim what's yours, I call this your birthright, in terms of your optimal libido, mental clarity, strength, physique, just the best quality of life. We don't really understand why we're on the earth, but I think that all of us understand that we want to live as much as we can. We want the fullness of life. You don't want watered down life. You want full, rich life. You want the best life. And I think that I feel called to do work in the world. We all probably have. I believe that every single person has some gift that they can give. And I feel like we all have this obligation to give that gift in the best way. There's this great quote from Steve Prefontaine, who's a a cult running. I used to be a runner. I don't run much anymore because I would prefer to do other sprint activities and surf. But he said, and to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. But I think that like, that's what I want people to understand is that you have a gift, and this sounds cliche, but we all have something to give. And if you are not your best self emotionally, in all of these ways, and I think that starts with the food, the biochemistry, the building blocks you put in your body, then you are sacrificing the gift and you are doing less than you could for yourself, your family, for everyone around you. That's why I think it's so important to do this and to do this work.
We were off YouTube for a while, and one of my lowest points was the thought that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It was terrible. I'm supposed to be helping people. I'm supposed to be inspiring people. I'm supposed to be lifting them up. And when I'm not creating that content, I got into a bad place. I really felt like I wasn't doing what I was put here to do.
You ever read that book, The Alchemist? Do you know that one?
I can't read.
Paulo Coelho. Have you ever listened to that book, The Alchemist?
No.
It's such a good fable. It's just an amazing book. It's just about the idea that, we all have something written on our heart. And this sounds totally woo-woo. So if you think this is cheesy, just, skip past this part of the podcast.
I love cheesy.
But there's I feel like we all have something written on our heart. And as you go through your life, your heart starts to whisper to you and say like, this is what really, you should do. Right. And a lot of us, I think, we're beaten down. We don't see a path to that. We don't think it's financially doable. We're just beaten down to the point that we don't believe that we can do what's on our heart to do. And then eventually the heart keeps nudging. Eventually the heart goes quiet and kind of starts to die. And that's a little bit of soul death for people. And I don't doubt that little bit of soul death and a little bit of heart shriveling, metaphorically, is one of the reasons that so many of us like to medicate ourselves with food and junk food. So it's all kind of wrapped in together there. But that's kind of one of the messages in this book, The Alchemist, is that if you don't listen to what's written on your heart, it will eventually get quiet and die a little bit. And
I love that. I feel like I've experienced that completely during our leave.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
It was a hard time for sure. And we were eating terrible food.
No, we were eating great. Paul, we were eating
but
great.
Maybe
I gained 6 to 8 pounds being pregnant. We were eating terrible food.
And I think that this isn't to be judgmental of people listening who are in tough positions. I think people get there because life is tough.
By the way, you need those positions.
Yeah.
You absolutely,
that's what brings you up.
It teaches
absolutely
you.
Need it.
But it's hard to be in that position. And you're self-medicating with junk food. Okay, no judgment. Realize it. And then decide what you want to make out of your life. But then from there on, I think that the first step for people, once you realize you're in the matrix, once you realize you're leaving things on the table, you're not expressing your highest form, you're not really using your gift as much as you should, you want to be healthy. Where do you go? That's what really gets me interested is the path to health. And that's where I think differ from a lot of doctors, and I took a different path and I think about things differently. That's where the real pain in this podcast will start for people and we'll start ripping them out of the matrix, hopefully a little bit by little bit. But the first step is easy. The first step doesn't hurt too much for people, except it will be hard when you do. And that's just to get rid of processed sugar and seed oils. And we can talk about what they'll do, but that's the first step and we should start there. And I know, Britt, you just did a month with no processed sugar. So that's awesome. But that was hard.
It felt amazing, but I went back.
Why?
I don't know.
It's addicting. It's addicting.
It's very addicting.
So let's say you're listening right now and you're like, wow, I'm doing all this too. I'm eating bad. What's the first step? Like you said, processed sugar and seed oils, but that is in almost everything. It is so difficult.
Almost.
It is so difficult to find. You can't go into a gas station and find that. Maybe some type of beef jerky, maybe.
But it's going to have processed sugar in it.
It's going to have something in it. So where do you start?
You got to want it,
I know that.
You got to want it.
Yeah.
How bad do you want it? It's not easy. It's not impossible, but you got to want it. You got to be intentional. And I haven't figured out how to express this next point to people, but I think it's so important. It's that convenience is your enemy. Convenience is the enemy of your optimal health. And that's fine, because if you really, this is the hero's journey. This is Joseph Campbell stuff, man. If you want the prize, you're going to have to work for it. Nobody's going to hand you a cutting board with the best foods, and nobody's going to cook for you every day. Nobody's going to go to your job and nobody's going to deliver you the best food on the planet every day. You have to work for this. You have to understand it. You have to earn it. And with that comes the fullness of life, I believe, for humans, and the full expression of the gift, which is really probably what we're all one of the things that we're here to do. So that's cool, but you have to earn it. So how do you do processed sugars and seed oils? You have to be intentional. You do your own search. That is your own journey. And I'll tell you, it's not hard. You go to the grocery store and you don't get anything in a package.
Which is pretty much eliminates most of the
90% of the grocery store. And we'll talk about which foods I think humans should eat. We can say, I think it's mostly meat and fruit at a highest level. And we'll talk about why I think that, which is in stark contradistinction to what most nutritional pundits would suggest. But like you said, processed sugars and everything. So you got to read labels. You got to be intentional, and you got to understand that you're going to go through some withdrawal there. And then seed oils, people may not even know what a seed oil is. So I want to talk about that. It's things like corn, canola, sunflower, safflower, soybean, peanut, any of those oils.
And why wouldn't you consume seed oils?
So this is where things start to get a little technical, but I'll try and keep it really high level.
Talk to me like a fifth grader.
Like I'm 5.
All right.
All right. Yeah. So a seed oil, let's think about soybean oil as the prototypical seed oil, because that is the seed oil that is most consumed in the United States, soybean oil.
Okay.
So how do you make soybean oil? So soybeans are a bean, but they're actually a seed, because if you plant a soybean, it grows a soybean plant, and then it makes other soybeans. So to get soybeans, you grow a plant and you pick the beans. And we'll talk about why I'm not a fan of eating soybeans in a moment. But to make the oil, you have to use all this chemical processing and all these problematic components and these processes of like squeezing the soybeans and bleaching them. And you basically have to take the soybean and make soybean juice, but it's very, very hard to make soybean juice. And it's never something our predecessors would have done. And when you make soybean juice, when you juice a soybean, right? When you squeeze the oil out of a soybean, or canola, which is a rapeseed, it's not even a food for humans, or like a sunflower seed or a safflower seed, when you squeeze the oil out of those, it's incredibly unstable. And it's incredibly unstable because it's not really meant to be out of the seed. It's fragile oil. And that fragile oil decays and breaks easily. We call that oxidation. The oil becomes rancid. And humans have never really had soybean juice, soybean oil to that degree in their diet. You look at, and I love anthropology. So I went to Africa last year and spent time with the Hadza. They're some of the last living hunter-gatherers on the planet. A lot of people may not even know what a hunter-gatherer is because we're so far removed from that. But the hunter-gatherers are people that basically live off the land. The Hadza don't have houses. They live in thatched huts that they break down. They're nomadic. They don't have cell phones. They don't have internet. They don't have electricity. They don't even have running water. They're basically wild humans. Wow. And they're probably the last best representation of the way that humans lived 50 to 75,000 years ago on this planet. So what do? Well, if you look at their diet, it probably has 2% of their calories from these seed oils and seed oil derivatives. 2% of their calories. In the last 100 years in the United States, these seed oils have taken over our fat supply, and we can talk about why. Since the invention of Crisco, they were previously machine lubricants. Yes. So in 1890, these seed oils were used exclusively for lubricating machines, engine parts, axles on cars. And then in 1911, Crisco figured out they could make it into a spread. And that was the beginning, I believe, of a lot of problems for humans. So throughout our history as humans, what our bodies are adapted to is a very low amount of these seed oils, and especially this molecule called linoleic acid, which is in seed oils in our food, because there's no seed oils in animal fats. This linoleic acid is not an animal fat. And it's only in very small amounts in animal fat. But when you start juicing soybeans, when you get soybean oil, you're just increasing the amount of these fatty acids to levels that are evolutionarily inconsistent for humans. And then you run into a lot of problems with human biology. And we can see that in human health over the last 100 years. Like we talked about, diabetes, obesity, chronic disease, autoimmunity, all skyrocketing. It's a correlation with increased consumption of seed oils, but you can get deep into the molecular mechanisms and understand that there's a pretty good case to be made that these are very problematic. So in short, I think that the simplest answer is this is not the right fuel for your car. You have a car, right? And it's a diesel car, or it's a sports car, it's a minivan, or it's a hybrid. There's a special type of fuel that goes in that car. And for humans, we have a special type of fuel that we need to eat. All animals have that. We can see this in dogs and cats and gorillas and primates in captivity, in the zoo and in the wild. If you have a dog or a cat in your home, as a pet and you don't feed that dog or cat what it's supposed to eat, they're going to get sick. And I think a lot of dogs and cats are not fed what they're supposed to eat. You know, you ever seen that meme on the internet of like vegan cat? I mean, cats are derived from tigers, right? They're not supposed to eat plants.
Definitely carnivores.
They're definitely carnivores. People try and feed their cats plants and the cats just die. And I think it's the same thing with humans. If we don't understand what a species appropriate diet is for humans, if we don't understand what the right fuel is that goes in the gas tank, you're basically taking an organism, a corporeum, a body that has the potential to be a sports car, to be lean and live, you know, and quick thinking and perform well and be fun to drive, fun to be alive in this body. And you're making it into a lesser version of itself. You're getting a beat up Ford Pinto or
a school bus.
That
don't be dogging on a school bus.
A school bus that's like breaking down and spewing out diesel fumes that nobody likes to smell and they're polluting, you know. And that metaphor can go really deep, but you know, that's I think what we're doing. And we need to understand what fuel goes in the car for humans. And seed oils do not go in the gas tank because they never have. And our bodies are this incredibly finely tuned instrument from all the time that humans have been alive on this earth. And when you put the wrong type of fuel in there, things go haywire. And I think that that's a real problem. Does that make sense to fifth grade Roman?
Well, there was a bit of me that was like deer in headlights for half of that.
When I said linoleic acid.
I love the analogy of the putting the right fuel in your car. If seed oils are so bad for us,
right?
Why do we find them in almost everything versus like, oh, they're in a couple products, but this stuff is everywhere. The more I'm trying to be healthy, the more I see it on labels, all types of seed oils.
Yeah.
Why not just, it's here in a couple products versus it's everywhere?
The same reasons that we have junk food. It's cheap and it's shelf stable.
It's profits.
And it makes you hungrier. So one of the things about this, I'll say this word again to people, linoleic acid.
I thought you were going to say matrix.
No, matrix. Don't get like, I don't want people to get like too worried, but I don't see a way around that word. It's important that people understand what linoleic acid is. It's an omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acid, but that is in the seed oils. And when that gets into the human brain in excess quantities, it short circuits our satiety mechanisms. It makes us more hungry.
Which causes more addiction.
Which causes addiction. It causes overeating. So there are breakdown products of linoleic acid that act like cannabinoids in the brain. And they trigger cannabinoid receptors. So these are the same chemistry as marijuana. And the reason I bring that up is because people maybe have experience with marijuana and they've heard or they've experienced that it makes you hungry. Well, marijuana makes you hungry because the cannabinoids, whether it's cannabidiol or THC or other cannabinoids, hit the cannabinoid receptor. They hit CB1 or CB2. They hit these receptors in the brain that are connected with your hunger, that's or lack of hunger, which is satiety. So when you trigger those receptors, your brain thinks, I should be hungry. But in fact, these seed oils can break down into products that trigger those receptors and that make you hungrier. Well, that I think is one of the major problems that we have as a culture. Is
why we all want to just keep eating.
You want to keep eating, but you know you've experienced the reverse. I think you both have, even over the last few days of us hanging out, and before I came, because you'd made a lot of great changes in your diet. This is the difference between eating what I think, anthropologically, historically, are the proper foods, the proper foods for humans: steak, meat, organs, fruit, honey, raw dairy. We'll talk about why I think that's the right answer.
Which would have been the only thing to eat.
That's all the Hadza eat, right? That's all our ancestors eat. Exactly. That's the evolutionary component. That's the anthropology. That's the historical component. That's what we've always eaten. So that makes a lot of sense. But it's the difference between eating those foods and the way you feel after, which for me, and I hope for you guys, is I feel full, but I feel satiated and I feel clear-headed and I have energy and I don't feel overly activated or anxious. And I feel like I can play with my kids or do what I need to do. And then I can go to sleep and I sleep well and I wake up and I feel good in the morning. I don't feel hungover. It's the difference between that and eating chips and candy and popcorn and chocolate and pies. And
that's throwing your glucose levels all over the place.
Glucose and your brain, right? It's going to make you hungry in your brain. You never really feel full. I mean, you can probably speak to that as well. The difference in the way you feel after you eat the foods. Sure, the junk food, these processed sugars, and these seed oil containing foods are going to make you feel good in the moment. You'll get some neurotransmitters in your brain, some dopamine, but then you have hell to pay afterwards. You have hell to pay afterwards. Yeah, shortly thereafter, a few hours. And that's the difference between those, is that you get satiety in your brain, you get calm, you get peace, or you get essentially drugs, legal drugs, like we talked about, getting jacked into your brain. And then afterwards, you have the come down and you want to come back up. And it's just this roller coaster of physiology in humans.
It's such a slippery slope. When I walk into the gas station, I don't know why, but the first thought is always, does our government care about us? Right? Because I'm looking at, to me, legal drugs. Like this food, these snacks, these candies. And by the way, my kids, that's what they want. That's what they want.
Of course.
And I just look at it like, we're talking about all these health issues and this pandemics we've all been in, yet the shelves are stocked full. There is no supply chain issues with Reese cups and Snickers bars and Twizzlers and Lay's potato chips. They're stocked on them shelves.
But you can't get good quality beef.
Beef is hurting.
And raw milk, even you can't buy raw milk. You have to buy into a herd share. You have to go around the system to really find the good stuff. And it's hard.
Yeah, and we spoke earlier about maybe Canada putting a warning label on their beef.
It's so scary, and
we don't even have many warning labels on a pack of cigarettes.
There's not a warning label on a Reese's peanut butter cup.
And you're
telling me there's no warning label on Lay's potato chips, and you're telling me they're going to put a warning label on beef?
It's interesting.
Canada is considering this in their parliament. I think it's called a parliament in Canada. They have a prime minister. I think it's a parliament. But it's crazy. It's absolutely absurd. In fact, one of this actually, my girlfriend Lindsay, who's here, I think she's going to join us with some upside down pineapples.
Yes. Anytime.
Come on in.
Anytime.
We are so ready for those pineapples.
We were hanging out in Costa Rica, and I bought a pack of cigarettes. And
they're so green. These gotta sit like this.
Oh. the emergency pineapple run.
Coming over here.
Yeah, this one maybe. This one's a little bit.
Let's see what we can do here. Stand up right there.
Let me ask you something real quick. What happens to Paul Saladino if all beef was stripped off the market?
Go back to hunting, bro.
You got to catch your own food.
I know how to hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Saladino puts on his loincloth.
What would it take?
And cotton shorts. Goes
I'm
hunting.
excited for that.
You last night you had me try some things that I've never tried before. One was a shot of liver juice.
Right.
So that's basically what's in the bottom of this glass jar. You drained it into a glass and we drank it.
Uh-huh.
I would never do that in my life, ever. It wasn't that bad. I really forgot where I was going with this. It was a good one. Anyway. I forget.
I'll say something else and we'll
All
see
right.
if you remember, because I was going to say Lindsay and I were hanging out in Costa Rica and I bought a pack of cigarettes to do some reels for Instagram. And I was going to actually talk about the cigarettes as an addiction and talk about the way that food is an addiction in the same way. And Lindsay looks at the pack of cigarettes and she goes, how come there's a warning label on the pack of cigarettes and there's not a warning label on a pack of Lay's potato chips? And I thought, that's so true. There should be, and I really don't believe this is hyperbole. There should be a picture of someone getting dialysis from their diabetes on the side of a Snickers bar. There should be a picture of...
Don't you think that would hurt sales?
I think it might.
Don't you think that would have an effect?
There should be a picture of someone who is obese and can't do the things they want to do because of their obesity on the side of a Lay's potato chips bag. There should be a picture of someone who has lost a limb or toes to diabetes on the side of your pick of junk food, Takis or whatever. They're going to come after me now.
You know what's funny? Last time I was in Europe, I noticed that their Lay's potato chips are called Walkers. And here they're called Lay's.
Okay.
What?
Is that...
That's interesting.
And they have different ingredients.
Isn't it strange though that like, I don't know, when I'm anywhere outside of the US, they they're open about it. The US is known to be big people, right? And they called our chips Lay's, right?
Just lay back.
But in Europe, they're called Walkers.
Weird.
Yeah. It's kind of strange.
It is
I
kind
thought
of
that was
strange.
kind of funny.
It is kind of, Well, we are a pretty sedentary culture, unfortunately.
And a lot of these snacks that we see on our shelves are not available in other countries.
I don't doubt it.
Why do you think that is? Last time I was in China, sugar was banned in China.
What?
Yeah, you can't. There's no sugar. Like their treats were so bland Even for like, I couldn't eat them. I need sugar.
But they got plenty of seed oils in China. They love the seed oils, and there's been studies about that too. I mean, that's a huge problem, I think, in Japanese and Chinese and all the Asian cultures, is that because they're cheap and they're shelf stable, these seed oils have come everywhere. They've just infiltrated. You and I talked about this the other day. McDonald's used to fry their French fries, and I'm not a fan of McDonald's French fries or potatoes, and we'll talk about that. But they fried them in tallow, which is beef fat, rendered beef fat. Real beef fat. Up until 1985 or 1990, it's only within the last 30, 40 years, McDonald's went over to the seed oils, peanut oil and canola oil in the fryers, because the consumer demand was that it was healthier. But think about this, and then we can even talk about saturated fat or go wherever you want with this idea. But in 1900, rates of heart disease, so heart attacks, this atheroma in the blood vessels, atherosclerosis, basically plaque in the arteries causing arterial occlusion. The rates of that were a fraction of what they are today in 1900. And 99.9% of the fat that we ate as humans was animal fat. It was tallow, lard from pigs that were fed way better than pigs are fed today. It was butter. So it was rendered beef fat. It was butter. Almost 100% of the fat that we ate was animal fat in 1900. And heart disease was not even on the map. Not even on the map.
Do you think that our technology now finds more heart disease than they would have in the 1900s?
Well, just look at the deaths per capita. Yes, our technology does find more heart disease, but you can look at death per capita for heart attacks, and just you can see it just go up and up and up over the last 100 years.
I don't doubt it.
People didn't even have this clinical symptomatology. There wasn't even a syndrome of a heart attack. People weren't dying with like clutching their chest with chest pain, leading to asphyxiation or leading to, can't breathe, this elephant on the chest feeling. That wasn't really even described. They didn't have a nosology. They didn't have a set of language to describe this as much 120 years ago as we do today. Yet it's so common today. It's just this meme, you're clutching your chest, and
it's constant.
Yeah. We see it all the time, unfortunately.
We know people personally all the time with more and more
who have died from heart attacks.
Yeah.
But they think, and they're brainwashed, that it's the butter.
Exactly.
It's the beef.
Why is
it's
that?
the red meat. It's the butter. That's what causes that.
Why is the high cholesterol? I can't eat that because I have high cholesterol. How did that come about?
So it came about probably in the 1950s and 1960s with Ansel Keys and some very badly done medical science. But as we know, the amount of effort required to undo bullshit is 10 times greater than the amount of effort required to create bullshit. So we were lied to in the 1950s and 1960s. And everyone acknowledges this now, no matter what side of the fence you sit on with nutrition. We were lied to by Ansel Keys. He had a plot of the amount of saturated fat that countries ate, and he plotted that on a sort of XY axis against the heart disease rates in the countries. And so on his graph, what you saw was the more saturated fat a country ate, the more heart disease they had. But he lied to us, and that lie was repeated, and it became the truth. And when the truth was discovered, he left out countries on the graph. There were 7 countries in the study. If you put 21 countries in the study, there's no relationship. It's just a scatter plot. It doesn't look like a line, anything you can draw a line through. It's just a scatter plot. There's no association. And we've seen this over and over and over now. I mean, we've done this science in the last 15 years. There's really no association between how much saturated fat, which is predominantly from animals, a country eats and the rates of heart disease. But in the 1950s and 1960s, Ansel Keys was hell-bent on that becoming the narrative. And so that, became the narrative, and that became what we made policies around. And then food producers realized we can make vegetable oils cheap, and they will produce foods that are cheap and they are shelf stable, and we will make money off this. And then the American Heart Association got involved, and it's this really big coup.
Do you think there's somebody else behind that graph? Not just one man?
Could be. Yeah.
I'm sure there's some conspiracies.
Well, there's definitely, not even really conspiracies. I think the American Heart Association is culpable there. And there was really a lot of confusion and never really discussed clearly. And so it's also important for people to understand this point, which is always hard to communicate on a podcast. When you see on the news or when you see on the internet, meat is associated, keyword, with XYZ, heart attacks, whatever. that is discussing something called observational epidemiology. So observational science, where it's just surveys. They're not actually doing an experiment. They don't have 10 humans that they're feeding a lot of butter to and 10 humans that they're feeding, or 100 or 10,000 humans. I wish we could do this study, right? But they don't have 10,000 humans that they're feeding a bunch of butter to for 5 years and then seeing how many of them have heart attacks. That's never been done. Well, it has been done. It's called human history, right? It's called the Hadza. It's called the last 300,000 years of human evolution. It's been done. And we kind of know how that experiment turned out. We seek animal fats, and we don't see that animal fats cause or have any sort of correlation or association with cardiovascular disease. But we've been told that that's the case based on this Ansel Keys epidemiology. But that's not a real study. You can't just give people surveys and say, what do you eat? And they say, well, I eat a cheeseburger on Fridays, and I eat 3 eggs on Mondays, and I eat bacon, and then I eat some brownies, and I eat some bread, and then I have 6 beers, and then I go to the store and I smoke some cigarettes. And but okay, so that person that eats more meat is going to have more heart disease. I will agree with that, likely. But they also eat brownies and cakes and seed oils. And this type of study cannot separate those out. This type of study doesn't have any sort of lens or ability to separate that. It's a very crude instrument. It's a very blunt, non-sharp knife. You have to generate a hypothesis, which is a guess from that study, and say, okay, red meat is associated with higher cardiovascular disease. Let's do an interventional experiment where we take people and we give them more red meat, and then we see what happens. And those studies have been done. And what happens when you give people more red meat, the kind that we've been told is bad for us, and you give them less grain-based carbohydrates, bread, pastas, they get healthier. Inflammatory markers go down. They become more insulin sensitive, which is a fancy word for diabetes reversing, obesity reversing, and they lose weight. But you never hear about that study on the news. You hear about the parroting of this notion that saturated fat causes problems. And then there's one more thing which we can get into, which is another rabbit hole, and I'll pause before we go down that one, which is that in most humans, our physiology is such that eating more saturated fat and less of these seed oils causes our cholesterol, quote unquote, which is usually low density lipoprotein, to go up. And this is probably where the problem lies, because the medical community is convinced that there is also a linear geometric relationship between LDL cholesterol and heart disease incidence. And that is not true either. And so what I will say here, and this is where the matrix escape becomes a little painful for people, is that if you look at a healthy human who is insulin sensitive and doesn't have diabetes, and there's ways to tell, there is no association between your LDL cholesterol and your chance of getting heart disease. And that, when I say that, the medical establishment, just smoke comes out of their ears and their head explodes because they can't wrap their head around that notion. And so anything in the medical world that lowers your cholesterol, which is LDL cholesterol, but we know there's also HDL cholesterol and triglycerides. So it's a complex discussion. And those HDL triglycerides and even your fasting insulin are a better reflection of your insulin sensitivity, your metabolic health, which is the key to everything. That's the key to the universe. That's the key to getting out of the matrix. Is your metabolic health. But people don't get focused on those. They don't look at your metabolic health. They get myopically focused. They put blinders on and they just look at LDL. And so saturated fat will raise LDL, but it will make you more metabolically healthy at the same time. And Western medicine just can't wrap their head around that. So I think that propagates the narrative that saturated fat is bad for us and seed oils are no good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man. Total sense. Dude, I'm all in.
I mean, I just had blood work done and they were like, oh, your LDL's high, your HDL's high, but your whatever else
triglycerides
was fine.
Right.
So it's like,
but you're also on a meat diet.
On a meat diet.
Yeah.
Which luckily the doctor understood that, and he's not trying to put me on like a medication or something.
Nor should he, in my opinion.
Right.
And this is the single greatest question that I get when I talk about what I believe is an evolutionarily species appropriate diet for humans, which is centered around meat and organs. That's why they're on the table. Is that, what about my cholesterol? And the simple answer for people is yes, your cholesterol may go up, and no, that will not increase your risk of heart disease. And yes, you will become more healthy. You will lose weight. You will have better libido, better mental clarity. You will feel the best in your life. And your doctor needs to listen to this podcast or to listen to some of my other podcasts, because they won't understand that LDL cholesterol is the worst predictor. It's a very, very poor predictor of cardiovascular outcomes. We have so much better predictors. Insulin sensitivity, which is a little bit technical, but that metric is a much better predictor of cardiovascular health and or risk of future disease. But physicians generally don't check fasting insulin, et cetera.
It sucks. It's so hard. Even to people ask me, like, how do you get healthy? How do you do this? It's like, yeah, I don't really know. I'm doing this stuff, but like maybe you should talk to a doctor before you get off any medications. But it's like to find a doctor that's going to do that is really hard.
So, well, they've been trained opposite of that.
We
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
And I think doctors fear legal consequence.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's very hard. You know, if you have a patient and they have high cholesterol, quote unquote, and you don't put them on a statin, which is the main type of drugs, then and they have a heart attack, then that patient could potentially sue you unless you fully discuss it all with them.
Yeah, that's scary.
It's
That puts
super-
everybody in a hard
it
spot.
does.
Yeah.
I feel as though they also believe it too.
The doctors?
Yeah. How often do you see a doctor and
Well, they
if
have been
they're
taught that.
metabolically healthy?
Yeah, they're not healthy. Do you want to
Right.
tell a little bit about your mom's story?
Sure. I'll tell a little bit about that. She was on a statin for probably about a year or so, and she went to her cardiologist. Actually, she went through a couple of different cardiologists, and it was actually until we were listening to your podcast with Dr. Nadir where we kind of started doing a deep dive into cholesterol and statins and just kind of understanding really what it means and what the high LDL means and what the triglycerides means. And so we were doing this carnivore diet for a couple of years, and she was still nervous about getting off the statins. Like, I don't want to get off the statins because it was just this narrative that was always in her head. And she's like, I don't want to get off of it just because if it makes me feel okay, regardless of maybe the new science that's out there that, not new science really, I guess, but just what is new to her, what she heard, she didn't want to get off it. And so I flew her to Houston. So we went to Houston and we spoke with Dr. Nadir, and he confirmed that like the statins are actually worse for you.
Oh my gosh.
They were making your mom fatigued. They were making her have brain fog. And this is not medical advice. No one listening to this podcast should stop your statin
Right.
before talking to your doctor. But
Right.
frankly, I would not put anyone in my family on a statin. You shouldn't treat your family, but I would not recommend statins to people in my family. My dad takes a statin. My dad is a retired physician, and it kills me a little bit because I think that he's missing the boat. So statins work by lowering your cholesterol, but they also inhibit the formation of important molecules in the human body, because we know that enzymatic reactions or synthetic reactions, synthesis reactions, like reactions that make molecules in the human body, often have downstream products. And so statins work very high up in the cholesterol formation pathway. And so when you have a statin, you don't make as much coenzyme Q10, which is an important component of energy production, mitochondrial respiration, heart, which is what's in this, which is behind door number 1. So heart is a great source of coenzyme Q10, and as is meat. And so this is another interesting point where physicians don't understand that there are so many critical nutrients in meat for humans that make us healthier, that the story that meat and saturated fat is always bad for us is it's a fallacy. It's an incomplete paradigm, and it's a lie that's been repeated over and accepted as a truth. But your mom's improvement, when she stopped the statin, she had less brain fog, better energy. It probably was affecting Lindsay's mom immunologically as well in terms of her immune system. And that was striking. She had recurrent infections that seemed to get way better when she stopped the statin as well. And so, but Lindsay's mom does have high cholesterol, but she also has metabolic health. So it's just a good illustration of that.
And she has less anxiety too, which
That's-
is
yeah.
huge.
It goes deep.
Let's switch it up. Let's lighten the mood. I've got in front of me a very common drink called coffee.
We call it burn seawater.
Burn seawater. I saw a reel you posted. I immediately shared it to every single coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, typically. Okay, I'm going to take a drink right now.
Twist the knife.
I need it, bro. I need it.
Does need the hit.
Coffee.
Right.
What are your thoughts on coffee? Because there's a lot of listeners right now that love their coffee.
coffee is one of the more controversial things I do talk about. This is where it hurts, guys. This is the Band-Aid starting
Yes.
to get ripped off.
Let's get in.
You're about to get pulled out of the matrix a little more, so prepare for like some pain. But so let's go back to the discussion of soybeans, and maybe we should back up a little bit more in terms of the framework, the way I think about food for humans. So coffee is a seed, right? We call it a coffee bean, but seeds are seeds. Beans, grains, nuts, and seeds are all seeds. If you plant them in the ground, they grow a plant. That's how plants move their DNA to the next generation. And one of the things that was striking for me in my training and my thinking about nutrition and human health and how to optimize it was that you can look at anthropology, you can look at the Hadza, like we talked about, and say they really want to eat animals. They hunt every single day. It's the best thing they do. They celebrate it. They celebrate meat. The Hadza don't celebrate leaves. They don't eat salads. They don't get excited when there's a bunch of seeds around. In fact, they don't eat what we think of traditionally as vegetables unless they are pretty close to starving. So there's no debate that throughout our history, humans have eaten, quote, vegetables, whether it's a root, a stem, a leaf, or a seed, which we talked about as seeds, nuts, grains, and beans. But anthropologically, you see a precedent for this. Humans do not celebrate those things. They eat them as survival foods, not the optimal foods that humans really prefer. So coffee is, in my opinion, a plant seed. And think about it from the perspective of a plant. So I'm going to wave my carnivore animal-based magic wand. Roman, you're a plant. You're rooted in the ground. You can't move. You have roots, right? And your job, your highest purpose is to grow big and tall and make leaves that are green, that photosynthesize, that take sunlight and convert that sunlight into glucose so that you can make things. You have energy to burn in your cells to make a seed, right? And that seed, say you're a coffee plant, you're going to make that seed and you want that seed to grow into a new plant. That seed is your baby. This is you. Now you're a coffee plant. You can grow a seed. You can make a baby. You're going to put that baby into the world. This is like putting Knox on the street and just letting him walk down the street. He's
Good luck, son.
Pretty defenseless, right? Like that seed is pretty defenseless.
Yes.
This is like letting a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old just toddle down Main Street in Columbus in the middle of the street. No. You're going to give him some defense mechanisms. You're going to put him in a metal container, right? A bubble. You might give him something so that if somebody messes with him, a spike comes out and says don't mess with me, stranger. I don't want your candy, right? Don't eat me. Cars, don't hit me. Don't kidnap me, right? You're going to give him defenses. It's like, I also think about Moses on the River Nile, just this innocent baby. No, that baby on the River Nile is got so many defenses, like ninjas in there with him, right? You're going to give him defenses, aren't you? This is the plant doing this. So evolutionarily, plants have been evolving for 400 million years. They're so smart at making defense chemicals. You think that coffee bean, that seed that made that coffee is not going to have defenses? That's a plant's baby, dude. That is defended. And there's examples of this that are so striking. There are plants that can, quote unquote, hear the sound a caterpillar makes when it eats their leaves. And that vibration triggers neighboring leaves to put more defense chemicals into the leaves. It makes the plant leaves more toxic to dissuade that caterpillar from eating it. So if you go out behind your house and you just start eating grass and plants, you just eat those plants, right? It's all good for you, right? More plants, the better. Vegetables are good, right? Salad. There's a salad in your front yard, man. You got grass clippings. You got the guy. Here, let's save that. Let's make some salad out of that, right? Let's save. No. What's going to happen to you? You're going to get nauseous. You're going to be vomiting. You're going to be pooping yourself. You can't eat grass. You can't eat plants in your backyard. Those leaves will kill you. All right, well, let's go out and eat some mushrooms. Oh, you're going to be tripping, or you're going to be puking. You're going to be dead, right? You can't eat plants, generally speaking. There are some plants that are edible to the point that we don't die from eating them, but they're still defended. They're still saying, man, this is my arm you're eating. This is a leaf out here. You're eating my arm. You're eating my baby, my arm. You're eating my stomach, or you're eating my leg, right? The plants don't want you to do that. And so this is an idea that people are very unfamiliar with, defense chemicals in plants. So this is my long-winded way of answering your question. Coffee is a problem because it's a plant seed. And there are many defense chemicals in that plant seed. The most well-known is caffeine, which people will say, no, that's the good stuff. That's
Don't
why.
take my caffeine.
Right. But caffeine is a chemical that activates your sympathetic nervous system. It turns on your fight or flight nervous system. It's meant to dissuade animals from eating it. It's meant to mess up your biology if you drink enough of it. We've found a dose of it for humans that gives us a little bit of a nootropic effect, but we just ignore because we don't want to really appreciate the fact that it totally messes up our sleep rhythms, our circadian rhythms, which is the sleep rhythms. It's going to activate your sympathetic nervous system. It triggers cortisol, which is generally a stress hormone in your body. And it's going to change your physiology. And that's not even talking about the acrylamide in that burned plant seed, which is a chemical that's been associated with cancers. From roasting that seed, you get acrylamide. It's not talking about the pesticides, but you can get organic coffee. It's not talking about the mold toxins that are in most of these seeds as they're aged. So nuts and seeds are full of mold toxins, which are more. So just like plants defend themselves with plant toxins, you have mold toxins, which we call mycotoxins. Well, in the case of a seed that's been stored in a silo or a grain, this is going to be wheat, barley, oats, whatever. They're going to have mold toxins on them because those grains are not meant to be sitting in a silo. Fungus is going to get in there and make toxins. So it's just, that seed is a very highly defended plant baby walking down Main Street, Columbus. And you're just like, give it to me, put it in my body. And yes, it gives you a little bit of a boost, but then I believe that humans pay the price long-term, and it's net negative for us as humans, that it's really not, it doesn't serve us well. It doesn't allow us to be the best version of ourselves. And that's an introduction. So that's where the things get really sticky for people. When I talk about my philosophy on dietary, paradigms, is that I don't think vegetables are good for humans. I don't think leaves are good for humans. I don't think stems or roots or seeds are optimal food for humans. If you're starving and that's the only thing you can find, in the event of a zombie apocalypse, and the only thing left
are there any vegetables that these are okay? These are good?
I don't
Green
think
beans. I was raised, you got to eat them beans.
I know.
Right? So
Right.
what's up with that?
Nope.
No green beans.
It's the same as a bean.
Same as a bean. It's growing off
It's got
the plant.
defense chemicals in it.
Defense chemicals.
I feel
in
like
it.
the first video I watched ever was your the one on spinach. And I think it hit me so hard because when I was training after I had Cora, I would have a spinach salad every night. It would upset my stomach more than anything that I've ever eaten. It would literally come out undigested.
So just more propaganda from Popeye.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Right.
Popeye said
Popeye's
it,
full of
right?
shit.
Because you ate your spinach, you were buff.
But
Popeye's
it
full of
was
shit.
definitely a reaction that I was just like, well, I'm losing weight, so it's got to be healthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much in that. So spinach is full of oxalates. So spinach is a leaf, and it's full of a compound called oxalates, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that the main kidney stone that humans get is a calcium oxalate kidney stone. And we know very clearly, Western medicine does not debate this fact that high oxalate containing foods like spinach or almonds or rhubarb or chard or beets are big. They're all big oxalate foods. If you eat a lot of those foods, you're going to increase your rate of getting calcium oxalate kidney stones. What Western medicine hasn't really figured out yet is that we see oxalate deposits, oxalic acid deposits throughout the whole body in a lot of humans at autopsy. In the thyroid, why is that? It doesn't have any role. There's no reason to have oxalic acid, oxalates in the thyroid, in joints. There's a condition in women called vulvodynia where they get pain in the vulva, pain in the vagina, the outer region of their reproductive organs. And a lot of women have success cutting oxalates out. So there's a potential that there are oxalates being deposited in like the most sensitive nether regions in humans that don't allow them to have sex or sit down. Like that's so painful, right?
Wow.
And that can also happen in joints. So that's oxalates, which we talk, that's just one of the things that are in plants. Plants use oxalates to hold on to minerals. So they use it in their biochemistry. It's not really something that humans use. Humans make a very small amount of oxalate, a small amount of oxalic acid in our biochemistry as we break down certain amino acids. But you can get 10, 20, 30 times that in turmeric powder. Chocolate is really high in oxalates. So you can imagine the smoothie that people make, right? Let's make a smoothie, guys. Let's put spinach, maybe some almond milk. Let's put some turmeric powder in there. We'll put some chocolate. And maybe for good measure, we'll put some beets in there and we'll put some other stuff in there to make it sweet. And you have an oxalate bomb.
And by the way, that to me would be on a healthy chart.
Right.
If you're trying to eat healthy,
Most
that's
people
something I
think
would
that's
think you would
healthy.
see.
Right.
So our definition of health is completely different.
This is upside down world.
Yeah. Usually somebody comes up to me like, yeah, dude, I ate real good today. I had a salad, ranch dressing. And to
That
me,
used to be my cheat
5 years
meal.
ago, I'd be like, yo, that's
Wow.
good job. But now I'm like, it's not that good. You probably
not.
covered it in this dressing that's full of seed oils and
Well, what that person did was they ate a bunch of survival foods. So your ancestors would just look at you with their like, what are you doing? Right? They're just shaking their head at you. Why are you eating survival foods? Are you the bottom of the food chain? You know, are you starving? Why are you eating survival foods? Why are you not hunting for the most sought after foods for humans and eating them with respect and gratitude? And we can talk about that. But it's a scary thing. And there are documented medical case reports of people getting kidney failure from green smoothie cleanses. Green smoothie cleanses causing kidney failure in a woman who had a tendency to reabsorb oxalates slightly more because she had a surgery on her gut. But this happens in humans. I mean, my dad, this is anecdote, but my dad had kidney stones. And I said, Dad, what did you change? He said, well, I started eating more spinach. I said,
Yay.
do you not know anything that I'm doing, Dad? Do you not?
I wonder both
That's gotta
of
be so
our
hard.
dads have had kidney stones in the last several years. I wonder
Yeah,
if
but my dad has an oatmeal cream pie for breakfast and a Mountain Dew, a couple Mountain Dews for lunch, and
I just wonder. Yeah. So where's the hope? Where's the hope? What can the viewers look forward to today? Because you've just pretty much hit them with a bombshell. I feel like if the aliens came and they ended up with you, they would immediately leave this planet.
Why?
This place sucks, man.
Because it's no fun.
You can't eat this stuff.
But tell me this, right? Like, did you enjoy what we ate together?
Man, let me tell you guys this. Paul comes over. He's the first guest to come and stay at my home and prepare meals the last 2 days. Like chef in the kitchen. I never seen somebody happier in the kitchen. You're just killing it on the grill. He makes us these grass-fed burgers, and then he puts raw butter on top, and then he drizzles honey from Costa Rica all over this burger. And I took a bite, and it was a little weird, but I took that bite and I said, this is like dessert. And this is all good. This is fats and proteins and natural sugar from the honey. It's like, it's the closest thing to an energy drink I can think of. And you're eating real beef.
That's not depriving yourself. You know, I think the aliens would realize like, oh, the aliens would get a 6-pack if they came in.
Buff aliens.
Be some buff
Now
aliens.
you've created a threat.
Yeah, they'd be a national security threat.
So I think the hope is finding these foods that are great for you, that you thoroughly enjoy more than the junk.
And there is no shortage of those. There's no shortage. So let's go back to the Hadza. And I think that this thought exercise is instructive for people. Imagine we don't live in hunter-gatherer times. We don't wear loincloths. We're not out there hunting. But imagine that you do. What are you sort of intuitively drawn to in the wild? Well, you're going to hunt animals. We know this is true. You ask the Hadza, what is your favorite food? It's meat. What makes you happiest? Getting a big kill. What is the happiest day of your life? It's the day I kill and hunt the biggest animal, bring it back to the tribe. What makes a good husband? You ask the women, they say a good hunter. So it's just very clear. Meat and hunting is the center of their life. It's very clear when you're in the wilderness, meat and organs, eating the animal from nose to tail and the fat, that is what sustains us in terms of nutrient density. And then beyond that, there are plant foods that I think are meant to be eaten by humans that provide color, variety, texture. And those are the most intuitive plant foods. What are your kids' favorite plant foods? It's probably fruit.
a banana,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Colorful.
raspberries.
And you can eat
Colorful.
unlimited fruit.
You can eat unlimited fruit. So colorful, flavorful. You made a good point that we hadn't touched on. There's a real difference in the medical literature if you look at the way the processed sugar performs in the human physiology versus a fruit, a natural sugar like a honey or a fruit. We had mango, we had papaya. I smuggled in all kinds of things for
Been
you.
living like kings.
Pineapple.
Try. Yeah, we had
Some
pineapple.
Very yellow pineapple.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
foods you've
These
been
are
making,
from-
it has to be what the most royalty would have had way back in the day. If you had fresh fruit and meats, that must have been the feast,
That's the feast.
right?
And the peasants, and this is not meant to be a pejorative statement, but it's just a historical context. If you were a peasant, you were stuck with beans and grains and crappy food. And what you realize when you look at the nutritional content of those foods is that if you are not eating meat, if you are not eating organs, which is why I believe these are so important and why they're at the center of the table right now, you're not getting all the little information that you're not putting the optimal fuel in the car. You're leaving money on the table. And yeah, you can survive on grains and garbage for a few years, but you're just going to get sicker and sicker and sicker. And you see it over and over and over in plant-based eaters and vegans. And sometimes people have improvement in a vegan diet right when they start because they cut out all the junk food. Yes, you're going to feel better. The human body is incredibly resilient. We are able to eat survival foods for years. But I've talked to so many vegans. I've had ex-vegans on my podcast. I've debated vegans on my podcast. And you hear the same story from the ex-vegans. 3 to 5 years, the health starts to deteriorate. They get muscle cramps, joints break. They get psychological issues. It's horrible. And there's a crazy statistic that there's 2 important ones I like here, which are kind of funny. There are way more, I think it's 5 to 6 times more ex-vegans and vegetarians than there are current vegans and vegetarians.
Wow.
And-
There was definitely more of a fad that took off. I remember when the lot of the I'm going vegan was coming out in LA, and
it's still a fad.
Yeah.
And I actually don't have a problem with that. I think if people are making an intentional choice with their food, great, do it. Just realize there's a net below you. And when you fail on a vegan diet, if you fail, I hope you don't, but I think most humans will fail on a vegan diet in terms of libido, in terms of energy, in terms of mental clarity and emotional stability, in terms of resilience. There is a net, and that net is what humans have always eaten. And what we're talking about this, which is what I would call animal-based. Some people call it carnivore, and it's meat and fruit.
what do you think your we talk about trying to get off caffeine, get off sugar, and you have a crash. You usually have to get through it a couple days, few days. What do you think would happen to you right now if you killed a bag of potato chips and a Kit Kat bar?
Feel horrible. I think I'd get the buzz, and then I would be mentally a wreck. I wouldn't be able to think clearly on the podcast. I'd probably be emotionally unstable. I'd say, let's go set ourselves on fire and jump in a river.
Oh my gosh.
just one bag of chips. But you've been on meat diet for years. And did you used to be a vegetarian?
I was a vegan.
A vegan?
Yeah. 15 years ago, I was a raw vegan.
Okay. So you've done this yourself.
I've done it. I was the most committed vegan. I was a raw vegan for 7 months, and I had horrible gas. We would not be able to sit in this room together without me farting.
Actually.
Yeah.
Quick question. Do you fart in front of Lindsay?
I don't fart that much.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever farted in front of you. Maybe once. But I don't fart that much now. It's
We just had a recent conversation about we've been together 14 years, never, ever.
keep it that way. Keep
Farted
it
around
keep
each
it
other.
special.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, but like the thing about eating this way is you cannot Dutch oven your partner because you just don't have enough farts.
There's not enough.
There's not enough
You're
farts.
telling me that beef doesn't produce?
No,
It digests so cleanly.
you're
Yeah,
way less gassy.
Way less gassy.
100%.
Nice little.
So you don't have to hold it in anymore. You can
Yeah.
just walk around normal.
Yeah, you're good. It's good. But when I was a vegan, I had horrible gas,
Interesting.
and my eczema didn't get better.
Putting
I
the
was
wrong fuel in the tank.
putting the wrong fuel in the tank. The car is sputtering, right? It's not accelerating
Literally.
properly. Yeah. And I was skinny, Roman. I don't know if you've seen pictures of me. I don't have a lot of pictures from that point in my life because it was so long ago. The internet was barely created 15 years ago, but I was 140 pounds. So right now I'm 165 pounds and I'm muscular. And I wasn't fat, but I was 140 pounds, 25 pounds of lean muscle mass lighter when I was a vegan.
Well, one thing before we ever talked, it was hard to argue with you based on your look, your skin complexion, everything you were saying. It just added up to your physique. So how do you argue with this guy? Like he really is living it and he looks the part.
And we talked about that a little bit earlier in this visit. I feel good about that, man.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very, I'm intentional. I don't do cheat days. I don't see the point. Never ever. Because I get to eat the best foods on the planet. When you're eating like royalty, you don't want to go eat like a peasant. And that's a kind of maybe an anachronistic metaphor, but why would you eat less palatable, less nutritious?
The king wouldn't go down and eat with the.
You don't do that.
What about alcohol? Because I know a lot of people that are working really hard on themselves, but they're still having alcohol each night or a little bit here and there, and that's a ton of sugar.
Poison.
A lot.
We know this. I mean, it has to be metabolized in your liver. Alcohol is not a vitamin or a mineral. And I'm not saying you have to be puritanical. I'm not saying humans can't have fun, but just understand that it's poison. Like that's not doing you any good. So be intentional. Why are you drinking alcohol?
Temporary joy.
Temporary joy. And one of the best expressions I've ever heard for alcohol specifically, but I think it's applicable to coffee and junk food and so many things we've talked about today, is it's like borrowing tomorrow's happiness today. So you can do that, but eventually the bank account runs dry.
Get away with it for a while.
You can keep borrowing. You can make withdrawals from that bank. Maybe you got some savings. You can borrow tomorrow's happiness today, alcohol. Then you don't drink for a few days. You borrow tomorrow's happiness again. You eat some candy bars. Borrow tomorrow's happiness today. See what happens.
Oh, I did it a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it cost a few of tomorrows.
Tomorrow's not such a good day.
Yeah.
When you borrow tomorrow's happiness today. And so that, like, why are we doing that? Alcohol is clearly harmful for humans. And I don't see a place for it in my life. So I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't use drugs. I don't see a point. I don't use cheat days for that reason. I don't want to sacrifice my gift any day. I feel an obligation to show up for myself, for people in my life that I care about, for people that consume my content online and benefit. Like I don't want to do that. No. And then I think this is also part of my history. In medical school, I got into jiu-jitsu and I never wanted to get my ass kicked on the mats. And I'm like, you better believe I'm going to be as sharp as I can on the mats. And before that, I was a distance runner. I never wanted to have a crappy run, man. These things hold you to task.
Yes.
And now I surf every morning when I'm in Costa Rica because I love it. And I mean, surfing is dangerous, man. Jamie O'Brien, and like not every day that I surf in Costa Rica is it heavy or is it hectic and scary? But some days you go out there, man, you could drown.
These waves are rocking.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't get heavy, hollow waves like Pipeline in Costa Rica, but we do sometimes.
Yeah.
And even on the days that you're not like, it's not as much fun. Like it's just, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I came across in my own sort of psyche was thinking about this. And I wanted to tell people, I said this on a reel on Instagram, like you are interesting enough. You are good looking enough. You are cool enough without the alcohol. You don't need that to be the best version of yourself. And I always wanted to walk that tightrope in social situations with no net. I was like, I want to be scared. I want to feel that social anxiety. I want to just walk up to that girl and ask her out. I don't want to need alcohol to have that social lubrication. I wanted to feel life more. I wanted that experience rather than shying away from it. But I get why people use it. I just think they need to know that they're cool enough without it. They don't need that.
Very addictive.
Yeah, it is very addictive. Yeah, psychologically.
Should we
see what's on this table?
Should we get into the fun part? By the way, how beautiful is a pineapple? Is there anything that just grows naturally as pretty as a pineapple?
It's like this stochastic, chaotic.
True work
it's like
of art.
It's a work of art. Yeah. I didn't know that each one of these takes about 200 flowers to make a pineapple. Those are X flowers. They used to be flowers.
It's crazy.
And it takes 2 to 3 years to make this.
One single pineapple.
What a delicacy.
It's amazing.
What a treat.
And just so you guys know, when you store them upside down, they're sweeter.
The juice runs
It's supposed
to the top.
It's supposed to like even help ripen.
I think so.
Correct?
Yeah. But behind the pineapples, we have some delicacies. So let's do...
Yeah, if you say so. I'm scared to death of that.
Well, we'll do that one last.
Yeah. Save the best for last.
God.
So we got some organs here on the table. And I think fresh organs are always best. But if you can't get fresh organs, that's why we've got the hardened soil supplements on the table, which are desiccated organs.
Which is just a pill.
It's a pill.
Way easier.
It's way easier.
Guys, this is serious. This is just goopy animal.
But
And this is the liver?
this is liver. But I'll tell you what. So I'm with the Hadza. Oh,
I don't think
There's
good
our
with this stuff.
pineapple.
pineapple off the table. So I'm with the Hadza and we hunt animals together. We got the towels for the hands here. We got liver. We got heart. So I'm with the Hadza and we're hunting animals. The first thing we do when we hunt these animals successfully is eat the organs.
So like a fresh heart.
Yeah,
It's warm. It's pumping.
They would have cooked it. So we put
Okay.
the animal on the fire.
This is raw heart.
This is raw heart because it's better for video.
The things I
Ready
do for you guys, I just don't do this stuff.
And I think
That's
that there's
big.
there's something to be said for, eating raw organs from time to time. There's always a risk, right? There's always a risk of food poisoning. I don't think any of us is going to get sick, but you preserve all the nutrients in here, which is why I wouldn't overcook it. which is why I actually appreciate things like desiccated organs because they're freeze dried. You can freeze dry at a low temperature. It preserves as many of the nutrients as possible. But you want the nutrients in here. You don't want to cook the heck out of this. Although if you're eating liver, no matter how you're getting it, it's better. So you guys want to get in there?
All right, I'm going liver first. I'm gonna, oh God, these are huge. I have a little one. Oh, it's so big.
Take it down.
Oh.
Are we liver
Do some
cheers?
ASMR.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh,
Cheers.
You
Went
already
ahead.
took yours down?
I already took it down.
It's kind of hard to swallow.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So like for me, I'm super low on vitamin A,
Ooh.
iron. That's the best medicine, right?
Yeah. So
All right, yeah.
So-
Why eat liver?
why eat liver? So muscle meat is great. It doesn't have all of the nutrients that your body needs to thrive. So you think historically we would never waste the liver of the animal. In fact, the liver is considered gold. There are tribes in Africa that won't even touch the liver because it's considered so sacred.
Oh, wow.
This is the organ of fertility. This is really such a unique repository of nutrients. The liver is not a filter. You even said this the other day. I think Kane said, "What's the liver?" And you
Yeah.
said it's like the liver's like a filter.
I
No, the
did.
liver is not a filter. The liver is an enzymatic powerhouse that biotransforms toxins and then excretes them or prepares them for excretion in the poop and the pee. The liver isn't a sieve. It's not the sieve that you once caught spaghetti in when you ate spaghetti. It doesn't just catch toxins and store them. It transforms them and helps you excrete them in number 1 and number 2. That's what the liver does.
So the pee creates the urine.
Well, yeah.
The liver creates the urine.
Well, no, the kidneys create the urine, but then it will biotransform toxins and put them into the blood in a way that the kidneys can filter them.
Got it.
Right?
It's like a supercomputer.
It's like a supercomputer, or it puts them into the bile and they go into your intestines and they end up in the poop. It's like AI, right? It's like a
So
protective
crazy.
AI. Yeah.
One of the reasons that I believe everything you're saying right now is because you only need that little piece a day.
A half ounce or an ounce
Like
of
a
liver
tiny bit.
will change your life. And it makes sense historically. We kill an animal together, right? Whether it's an impala or whatever animal, the liver might weigh 1 pound or 2 pounds. You're going to split that up among 10 or 12 members of the
And it's
tribe.
going to fuel everybody.
You're going to get a little tiny bit. You may not even get liver every day, but you're going to get liver. And nobody is ever going to shun liver in the tribe. I don't really like liver. I'm not going to eat it. No. You're eating.
It's so packed.
It's so packed. And because it's that enzymatic powerhouse, it has unique nutrients. And you can talk about vitamin K2 or choline or biotin for hair, skin, and nails, or folate or riboflavin or vitamin B12, or you can talk about B6, or you can talk about peptides that are unique to liver, which we haven't even talked about. And this is really the cutting edge of nutritional science. And I hope more research will be done here. We think of human nutrition as vitamins and minerals. And when we have that reductionist perspective, you can distill all those vitamins and minerals into a multivitamin. And it's yellow and it comes in a Flintstones jar. And that's bullshit, right? Because there are so many nutrients in liver that we don't even know about. And we're beginning to understand peptides, small protein molecules that have important features, pre-hormones, pre-enzymatic components, cofactors. There's nutrients in there that we don't even understand as humans that we're just beginning to understand. Things like ergothioneine. There's no multivitamin on the planet that has ergothioneine, but it's a beneficial component found in liver.
In liver.
And
in
this
liver.
is something that's been taken out of our diet in the last, maybe 40 years?
Yeah.
'Cause
Depending on your culture.
My parents and stuff, they would, as kids, you have to eat liver and onions once a week, or, they would still eat that.
And by the way, not hard to find either. For those of you that are like, wow, the heck would I even get liver? Not hard to find. We found this local. We got this one local.
Eatwild.com. You can find local farms.
Eatwild.com.
Yep.
If anybody's out there trying liver because of us, please tag me. I want to see it.
I hope you guys do.
Yeah. It's very unique taste. I've never tasted anything like that. The texture is my big weakness because then it hits my mouth and I'm like, but the flavor's not.
Has Knox had this?
No, he hasn't.
It would be interesting to see what Knox does with it.
He does the bone broth and caviar. He eats caviar.
He's
I wonder-
He's had raw beef before.
I wonder what he would do with liver. Kids love the organ capsules. If you just open them on things, they'll go crazy.
Sprinkle it.
Yeah, like little sprinkles. The best kind of sprinkles. Just don't put them on a cupcake. Put 'em
Okay,
on.
so we're doing heart.
Yeah, so this is heart. And heart is a muscle, but it's a unique muscle. And because of that, it has unique enzymes, cofactors. It's
This
full
looks
of,
like steak to me.
it does look like
That
steak.
doesn't look like heart.
Yeah.
It's just meat.
But you can see the epicardial fat on top there.
Do I just take a bite out of it?
Yeah, you can just chew
I'm
it.
not going to eat this whole thing.
You can.
you should.
Absolutely. You should eat the whole thing. Yeah.
This whole thing?
Yeah, well, I'll eat the
chew
whole thing.
it or
Yeah.
swallow it.
Oh, you guys are going to kill me.
No, you chew this one.
Yeah, chew it.
Chew this one. This one's easier.
ASMR.
Oh, it's like a gummy worm.
Minus the
Oh,
sugar.
Everybody back there's holding their mouth.
It's like sashimi. No.
It's
not
the
as bad
slime.
as
It's
liver.
the slime. No, it's way better than the liver.
Right. I think it's way better.
Oh,
You going to make me eat the whole thing?
Well, yeah.
I'll eat yours.
I have. I got the biggest piece off there.
Lies.
I'm saving room for the dessert.
Oh, no.
So heart is, I think about heart for like
Raw heart. I taste the
answering-
iron.
Yeah. Answering, taurine,
The blood.
important amino acids that are beneficial for humans. You got some coenzyme Q10 in there. We talked about that with the statin. So there's a lot of coenzyme Q10 in heart. But when I started looking at the medical literature, you find nutrients in meat and especially in organs that have been studied in amazing contexts, interventional studies that slow cognitive decline in the elderly, that improve mental focus and mental strength, mental endurance. It's amazing what's out there. I mean, creatine alone. So creatine is in meat, but it's also in organs. When you deprive humans of creatine, they get less smart. And when you give creatine back to vegetarians or vegans, they get smarter.
So as a somebody that knows nothing about that field, until the last year I started learning a little more, I always assumed creatine, I associated that with big buff guys.
Right.
Right? Like the high schoolers, when I was growing up, they're killing creatine, they're getting buff, they're getting huge. I had no idea the effect it has on the brain.
The brain.
Yeah.
I mean, everything really. Energy, musculature, but we all need musculature. Even women, if you want to be a healthy woman, I don't think people understand this. The key to weight loss is a metabolism. And the key to a high metabolism is having healthy muscle on your body. And there's two keys to that, actually having the muscle, building the muscle, and being metabolically healthy, which is, as we talked about, avoiding the seed oils and the processed sugars. That's how you lose weight. You got your body burn it. Humans don't have success long-term by counting calories, by limiting portion control, or by over-exercising in the gym with losing weight. Those are all failing strategies to lose weight long-term.
Yeah, it didn't matter what we did in the gym until we changed the diet. Nothing. I mean, and the gym's hard.
We build the muscle, but
Yeah,
it took a lot
but
longer.
it builds a lot quicker eating this type of stuff. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's
There
good.
it
That's good.
is.
Got it on your table, bro.
All right, it's all right.
What do we got there?
Okay, tell everybody what this is because it looks amazing.
Amazing.
I was all excited until it's like laying there. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I know.
So you said it's like yellow inside?
It is yellow inside. So this is a bull testicle.
How often do you eat something like this?
I eat testicle every week if I can get it.
Actually,
Yep.
because you love the flavor, you love how it makes you feel.
Basically how it makes me feel.
None of this is the flavor. Maybe that heart.
I mean, it all tastes
not too bad.
You know what? You kind of learn it. I think you learn to associate liver, the taste of liver, with a little bit of energy, with feeling good. So that taste is all subjective anyway, right?
This is the part it's the get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you have to do these hard things to see results.
Yeah.
Every part of this fitness journey for me has been hard. And the only way I've seen changes is to make it harder.
Yeah.
This is hard to me. I don't enjoy that.
I mean, the things I hear when people eat testicle and liver and heart are amazing. Men having improvements in libido, erections, women having improved sex drive,
More
losing
like
weight.
testosterone?
Yeah, probably some precursors or something. Yeah. I mean, better performance in the gym, more emotional stability. It's like, what is that worth to you? Like, this is what we've always done as humans.
I know it's easy to put it off, right? Maybe I don't want it now,
Yeah.
right? I can go to the gym next year. Diet starts tomorrow. It's easy to just keep putting it off, So go ahead and put that back in. Am I cutting this?
I'm gonna let you be
how
honest.
do you do this?
Just cut it right down the middle. You
down
might
the-
want to use one hand to stabilize or something.
Oh my God. It's a trampoline.
It's like the
and
blob
that's
you
just
have.
singular, or is that like the whole?
That's one testicle. That membrane is tough on the outside.
I feel like it's gonna
Yeah.
just squirt.
No, it's not. It's solid.
Okay.
This
Hopefully that knife is sharp.
It's just really tough. Oh, glad that ain't my balls. I can't get a grip.
Sounded like your dad.
There you go.
This is the part you eat?
Yeah. You want me to help you?
I don't understand how I get a piece.
I'll do it.
All right. You're the...
The ball expert.
Okay, and how much are you?
So we've got you're friends with the Liver King.
Yeah.
Is there a world where you become the Testicle King?
How much of that should you eat a week or a day, or say you had infinite of that? How
Infinite
much?
testicle?
Yeah.
You guys want to lick my fingers? All right, baby. Get it.
I think an ounce, half an ounce, even a little bit of testicle would
Oh my God.
would be
It's
helpful
just
for
the
people.
texture. I'm not worried about the flavor at all.
just swallow.
Yeah. I'm going to try. Is that maybe double the size that?
Well, that's how big a piece I'm going to eat. I don't know. I'll make you a little Roman
Give me a
piece.
slither. Give me a slither.
Slither.
Yeah, because that's...
You can eat that.
I never had a ball
And you
in
don't
my
want
mouth.
to cook this.
You could cook it. I think it's actually better when it's raw.
I agree. I think all of these organs taste better raw for me.
But we had some of the heart yesterday grilled. And
Bro.
It was great. I
Did
think
you
I
like
liked it
that
better
better?
grilled.
I'm so
Okay.
excited to get this down.
Especially with a little bit of honey on there and butter.
So, yeah.
Is that a good piece for you, Lindsay? You like
yeah.
that? Okay.
It's perfect.
She's like, I want more.
Well, she will want more. Lindsay loves testicle
do.
like this.
Do.
Interesting.
Sound bite.
Did you do it?
Did I do
Mine
what?
got bigger, dude. I swear that got bigger.
Think it bigger. Cheers.
I'm having heart palpitations just thinking about it.
Let's do this.
Cheers.
Cheers.
My first testicle.
Mine's down.
It's down.
I feel like it's just saltier than the liver.
No, it tastes like liver.
It's similar. It's very similar.
Maybe that's the iron.
She's just chewing it over here.
You're chewing up?
I can swallow whole.
Oh, my
I told you I
God.
like it. I really want that flavor.
What a beast. Oh, I don't even have a camera on you. Oh,
Show
she's
to
just
him.
chewing it up. High five, dude. I'd never
Oh.
done that without you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a first for
Good
me.
job.
Proud of you.
Well done.
I'm proud. I'm actually proud that we did that. It's something that I feel like this type of stuff's coming up more and more and more. I'm seeing it more, maybe because I've clicked on, let's say, your video. Now I'm being served more videos like that.
But I feel like there are people searching for ways to feel good, and they know the energy drinks and the things aren't actually making them feel good.
Temporary.
Borrowing
Yeah.
tomorrow's happiness.
I'm trying to
Energy
build,
drinks.
I started all this so that I could chase my kids and that I could outrun my kids and that I could keep up with my kids. And this is kind of the next step to find that energy, real energy, raw energy.
Now it's how to get the kids to eat this.
Yeah, that's a whole nother chapter.
Yeah.
To get the kids involved is hard.
So we can talk about this. I don't have kids right now.
What are
but
you guys waiting for, by the way? I can teach you guys if you need.
We're here for Roman's course
Yeah,
on baby making.
I know.
They took the course, and I'm hoping in the near future.
Maybe. I mean, if
See
Lindsay keeps eating that testicle, who knows what's going to happen? If I keep eating that testicle, who knows what's going to happen?
She's gonna get a mustache and a beard, and you're gonna.
No, women can benefit from testosterone too. And even, a little bit of testicle isn't going to cause a woman to get hirsutism or overly androgenized features. But a lot of women don't have enough testosterone, just like they
Yes.
don't have enough estrogen, or the progesterone is imbalanced, or they're estrogen dominant. And it's all just kind of related to hormonal imbalance and insulin resistance. But women, testosterone is a big part of the sex drive in women too. So it's a healthy thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Here, babe. Just pass this down.
Good little seconds there.
Amazing. So, I'd love to just imagine the first human that just chopped a testicle in half and ate it. It must have been just desperation for food.
I don't think the first human chopped it in half. I think the first human
just
just
ate it.
cut it off the animal and just ate that thing.
Out
Yeah.
of probably hunger.
Hunger, and then,
Old testicle Terry's getting bigger than everybody over here.
Yeah.
Let's try the testicles.
let's eat the testicles, or let's eat the liver, or these people in the tribe are the most fertile, or they're the best hunters. I mean, I really believe that this is what humans are meant to eat. And it doesn't have to be raw testicle. It doesn't have to be raw heart and raw liver. There's desiccated or cooked or whatever. But like it's pretty clear that the animal foods, meat and organs, are the center of the human diet. And if you make those the center of your diet and you understand that what you have been told about those foods is wrong and incomplete science. And that's why I do the work I do. That's why I wrote the Carnivore Code, which is my first book. That's why I do the podcast, to really get deeper into the science and help people understand you've been told wrong. I really believe we've been lied to, not always intentionally, but we have been misled and we've been brainwashed. And if everyone had the chance to go and live with the Hadza or live with other hunter-gatherers, I think it would click for so many of us. There's no vegans out there, man. There's nobody worried about, where's my salad?
Yeah.
They're thinking, where's the meat?
Yeah.
Where are the organs? Is there fruit in season? Can we find a beehive and get some honey? That's about it, man. Yeah. And that's, I think that results in good human health, and you see it over and over and over. And at this point, I think I'm far enough in this journey that I've heard from hundreds, if not thousands of people, success stories, which is so cool.
That is cool.
It's so
That is
cool.
cool.
I mean,
Yeah, and you can make this fun too. Get around with your buddies and your wives and
Or add
make
some
it a
maple
fun
syrup
thing.
or honey to
Make it a fun thing with your buddies. Challenge them. You know, it doesn't have to be serious. It can be a fun get together once a week with your friends, and you guys eat balls.
eat some
together,
organs,
dude.
eat some
Yeah.
balls. I mean,
And with kids too, as you mentioned, you just put like the desiccated organs in a smoothie. Like we had smoothies the other day, right? Cream, honey, and they loved it.
Yeah, everything's been fantastic.
so maybe we should talk about how people could take step one and how people could go back.
I think it's
you know,
needed.
Yeah, go, do it. So I will say that I think that if you have a family and you're listening to this, the whole family probably needs to be involved. Humans are communal animals. And this is, I think, our downfall, but it can also be our biggest support. The most successful changes that I have seen in the last 10 to 20 years are people who have had communities. And they either have a spouse or a sibling that got them interested in making a dietary change and is willing to support them on that journey. But if you're doing this and your spouse is going to keep eating hot dogs and processed meats or processed sugars and Twinkies and Lay's potato chips, like that's going to be a tough thing.
So hard.
So
Same with alcohol, same with smoking.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like drugs.
It's a teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work.
And if your kids are eating junk food, it's going to be hard for kids to eat differently than parents. And it doesn't have to happen overnight. But I think that like we've touched on this point a little bit a few times in the podcast, but I want to reemphasize that between where you are now and optimal health is suffering, is pain, is work.
Yeah.
Is work. And you're going to earn this. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to be that way for your kids too. So without overstepping, I've kind of been thinking, we've been talking a little bit like, how can you guys help your kids get to this point? And I don't have a good answer, but I know I've got some friends, and my friend Liver King has told this story that in order to get his kids to do it, they had to kind of say, this is what we think of as food now. And if you're not eating this, you're not eating. And then eventually his kids came around. But there is an addiction to these foods, and it is not easy to get kids off of them.
So addicting.
It is not easy to get humans off of them.
That's by design.
Yeah.
It's not an accident.
But adult humans can be a little more intentional and a little more examined in their thought process.
By the way, as a parent, it's your job to protect your children.
Yeah.
If I'm handing my kids poison,
Yeah.
food-like products, illegal drugs, that's on me.
You're setting them up for failure.
Absolutely.
And they may not develop that autoimmune disease while they're under your roof, but they certainly might. And even if they don't in the future. And then I think, again, it's a little bit of a tough position since I don't have kids, but this is how I plan to raise my kids in the future. I love what Liver King said. He didn't care if his kids hated him as long as they didn't hate themselves.
That's deep.
I know.
And it's true. It is true. Like, you got to be the bad guy as a parent. It's your job.
Yeah,
Your
it's definitely
only
a hard
job.
road I think we're going to have to go down
The only job we have is to protect them
sooner than later. Our kids don't eat, chocolate and candy and stuff like that anymore. But, they still do have like a grilled cheese made from better bread or but it's still...
Is bread
it's still
that bad?
Bread is not a good thing, man. So bread is a grain.
Why is it so good?
So we talked about this last night at dinner, remember? So gluten in wheat is transformed into something called gluteomorphin. And that sounds like morphine because it is an endorphin. It is in the same family as morphine. So there's something about this compound in bread.
I know it is because
is
when
narcotic.
I get it, man, what a treat.
It's
you give me a
narcotic.
bagel right now?
Yeah.
And why is that so attractive versus something that's going to make me feel incredible?
Yeah. But okay, so think about this. We've opened a Pandora's box as humans, right?
Yeah.
We have all this history and all this evolutionary programming that's telling us eat fat from animals because that's how you survive. And then we've been given vegetable oils and given the wrong type of fat. Eat sugar in fruit because that's sweet and that's going to help you. And then we've been given processed sugars. When would we have had access to soybean juice or soybean oil? When would you have had access to grains? That's a very recent addition to the human palate, to the human menu. And it's maybe 10 to 15,000 years old, but there's even evidence that our ancestors, because now we're getting into recent human history and we can see coexisting tribes from the Ohio River Valley from 1,000 years ago of hunter-gatherers and pastoralists, people that started farming. And the difference in health is striking between those two. So when humans began farming and growing grains to make into bread, they had enough calories to reproduce and their populations expanded, but they became much more unhealthy, much less healthy. They became more decrepit. You see the femur lengths shorten, they get to be shorter. There are more lesions from infections in the bones in their skull. Parodic hyperostosis is related to nutrient deficiencies. There's more tuberculous lesions of the spine. There's more pathological fractures in these people. And we see it today. I mean, if we do what everyone else does around us, we will end up like everyone else around us in terms of our health. And if you look around yourself, people are not thriving. They're not resilient. They're not the type of human that can endure things that are hard, that could fall out of a car and not hurt themselves, or, could do something hard, like be wake surfing and fall and not hurt themselves, or sprain an ankle easily when you take a step down and it's icy and you fall, right? We're just not resilient humans. We're fragile humans now because we're doing what everyone else has done. And so
I think the only way to argue with it is like if you don't like this topic, it's because you don't want to change. If you want change, this topic is only helping you thrive.
Jump down the rabbit hole.
But until you're willing to do it for your personal gain, for you as a human, this all sounds crazy.
Well, there's one more thing we should probably talk about. That's the ethical thing. Because I think some people would look at this and say, it's unethical to harm animals. And then other people would say, that's not good for the planet. So we can talk about both of those things from my perspective if you want. What I would say, and we talked a little bit about this with regard to hunting earlier today, is that eating animals is part of the circle of life for humans. And I don't believe that humans need to feel bad about eating animals. I like hunting, and I have hunted with both a bow and a rifle in my life because it reminds me of how grateful I should be as a human to eat these most precious foods. And our ancestors, the Hadza, they're grateful. They don't take this for granted. They eat the organs as almost as much of a show of respect to the animal as a show of celebration of the nutrients that the organs provide. But there is something to be said for the fact that in order for something to live, something else must die. This is the way of life. And we cannot escape that. If you believe that by eating plants, you are causing less death, you're wrong. The field that those plants came from was a biological ecosystem that was destroyed by a plow. Voles, insects, bugs, snakes, birds, groundhogs were all killed when that field. But do you value the life of that insect more or
Slippery
less?
slope.
Earthworms, like where do we draw the line? Oh, I'm okay killing earthworms and slugs, but I'm not okay killing cows. Well, life is life. You should respect all of it. So, and we're disrupting a whole ecosystem. And then they're spraying glyphosate and pesticides on those crops, which is destroying cycles of life for future generations. That is getting into the water supply, which is harming our children. Maybe you're eating organic plants. Okay, well, those plants are also destroying the ecosystems in which they are grown as monocrops, which is a huge problem. And so there's a really important discussion here. There's a really important discussion here around what is ethical. And I believe that like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, my greatest responsibility is to be the best version of myself. And I believe that I should be grateful for the nourishment these foods provide me so that I can be the best version of myself, so that I can think most clearly and help other people in the best way. And so I don't see that as an ethical conundrum at all. I think that humans should eat animals to be ideally fully healthy, and that is an okay thing to do. The second part of that is the planetary argument, which gets into some complicated environmental science. But if you believe that cows are contributing to climate change, I would urge you to go back and reconsider the numbers. If you accept that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that is causing global climate change, then look at the amount of carbon dioxide equivalents from methane from cows relative to other sectors, which you are not willing to give up. Transportation, electricity generation, industry, landfills, those are all much, much larger contributors. There's a 2014 EPA report that shows that the greenhouse gas equivalents, so methane being converted into carbon dioxide equivalents from cows in 2014, were 1.9% of the total US anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions, 1.9%. Industry, transportation, electricity generation, all 20 to 25% each. And you should understand that agriculture from plants contributed 5.6% to that carbon dioxide. So you cannot grow plants without carbon dioxide being generated. You cannot grow animals without some methane being generated. But what you can do with animals is regenerate the land. Because if you put animals on the land and you go to a regenerative farm, like White Oak Pastures in Georgia or others, where they do grass feeding and grass finishing and rotational grazing, what you find is that the carbon content of that soil is increasing the longer cows are on the soil. When the carbon is greater in the soil, it holds more rain in a catastrophic rain event. Around here, what do you think would happen to the soil if there was an inch or two of rain? All that topsoil would run off and end up in estuaries. It would just choke rivers because there's no carbon in the soil, because monocrop agriculture, the kind that even your organic food is produced with, strips the soil of carbon. It just depletes the soil of minerals and the microbiome of the soil is destroyed. So you cannot have life and a healthy soil ecosystem without animals on the land. Well, in fact, cows are meant to live on grass. They're grassland animals. And what do we have in the country? We have a lot of grassland in the Western United States. That's why the Western United States was so fertile, but we've turned it into corn and soyville, and we've destroyed so many of those ecosystems. So yes, there's enough cattle to feed all the humans in the United States. Yes, there's enough land to do grass feeding and grass finishing. And that is the way to regenerate the land and create the highest quality soil, which will nourish us for generations. But people don't understand that. They just want to repeat or parrot a fact or an untrue notion, which is not a fact, a lie that's been repeated so many times that it's become a truth, that cows are the major driver of climate change, which is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense to me, actually. And I don't even know any of the details.
It's absolute horseshit. I mean, it's the other thing about methane from cows is that methane is a CH4 molecule, which is from the carbon cycle. When we drive our cars, which many of us need to do our work, we are combusting fossil fuel. You are taking carbon containing molecules from the ground and releasing them into the atmosphere. That is new carbon into the atmosphere. When a cow has a burp, or a human has a burp or a fart, we release methane, just like cows do. That methane, that carbon and that methane came from a carbohydrate, a carbon containing molecule that was previously part of a system. So cows burp methane, it becomes carbon dioxide in the environment. Plants fix that carbon dioxide into their bodies to make carbohydrates, which they put into the fruit that you can eat, or they put into complex carbohydrates in grass that cows can eat. And that same carbon atom goes round and round. There's no new carbon created.
Balanced.
Yeah, there's no new carbon created there. But people just want to focus on the carbon dioxide coming out of the cow's mouth or butt, and they don't understand that that's just cycling. That's been around forever.
I can't believe that's a thing.
It's a thing.
Like a bunch of diesel trucks out in the field.
And a bunch of airplanes flying over our heads.
Those are fine. There's profit there.
Well, I mean, we all need to take them, but I think we just need to understand that if you accept that carbon dioxide is a problematic greenhouse gas, where do you really change that equation for the greatest good? It's probably not taking away or taxing or making it difficult or more difficult for people to get the most nutritious food on the planet.
Do you think there's an agenda to remove beef?
I do. I do. It's slightly conspiratorial, but I do think there's an agenda because it wraps back into everything we talked about. I've never seen a cattle farmer drive a Lamborghini. There's no profit. There's no margin. The cattle farmers I know in Georgia, they're good people. Mm-hmm. They drive beat up Jeeps that are 15 years old and they love it. They don't want more than that.
Yeah, they're not going to drive a Lamborghini even if they could.
Even if they could, but they couldn't. I don't think they could. There's not enough margin there. Like meat is hard to produce and it's only getting more difficult to produce. There's not a lot of margin there. There's a lot of margin in processed food. So it is very good for a lot of very rich people if we eat more plants, but not regular plants like kale or spinach. They're not against those for the same reasons that I am. They want you to eat Beyond Burgers. They want you to eat plant-based burgers. They want you to eat
those are wild.
Processed food from plants, which is now healthy for us or healthier for the planet. There's profit in that.
We should have had a piece of that on
We could have.
See if I could trick you which one's which.
Have you seen it? It just looks like a bean curd.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It doesn't look very good. It's pretty nasty. So
somebody enjoys it.
I'm sure that people believe they enjoy it, but this is some of my favorite studies that I came across in writing my books and doing my podcast and talking about this stuff. Compared vegetarians to omnivores. Omnivores are people that eat meat. These are not animal-based people. These people that eat vegetables too, but they eat meat. And they put EEG leads on their head. They put all these electrical leads on their head. And then you can see what's going on in the brain. We call this evoked response potentials. And you show vegetarians or vegans pictures of meat, and you can see what's going on in different areas of the brain. This is where the real truth comes out. And you can show omnivores pictures of meat and see what happens in the brain. Well, you show an omnivore a picture of meat, and both the cortical level, like the neocortex, all the folded part of your brain, the part that's more evolutionarily recent, the part that we think of as like higher intelligence, says, yes, I want that beef. And there's a deeper part of your brain that says, yes, I want that beef. So it's 2 thumbs up. Deep brain, cortical brain. Conscious brain, unconscious evolutionary brain. You show a vegetarian that picture and the conscious brain says, gross, we don't want that. But the unconscious brain is still going, it's still going like this. It's still giving thumbs up.
So crazy.
It's still going, we want that meat, but this learned pattern of behavior, this is why it's so hard to unprogram kids because humans are so programmable. And if you program a kid as a vegetarian or you program a kid to junk food, or you have to unprogram it. But nevertheless, you program somebody vegetarian, they see a couple of documentaries that are misleading. They think meat is bad, but the deep part of the brain still wants that meat because we are built as humans to desire it. And I think it's essential for us to be optimal, meat and organs. And then we add to that the least toxic plant foods, the fruit, and you have what I would call an animal-based diet. And that's what we've been eating the last couple of days.
And it's been fantastic.
It's been great.
I feel great. I feel good. I slept one of my best nights last night. Went to bed. By the way, the sun wasn't even down. My windows I could still see the sunset.
I was so excited.
Yeah.
That is unheard of for me. I hate going to bed early, but I slept great. I slept good. We had a hard day yesterday. We hit the gym together. We've done the sauna twice now together. It's been an awesome trip.
Yeah, man. It's been good.
Awesome trip. I've learned so much. Continuing on our journey and bringing our kids along and just trying to be the best versions of ourselves.
So mentally, you can do the best
physically,
work.
Yes.
So you can do the most in the world.
So I can keep making a podcast.
Yeah.
Keep raising these kids.
Keep up with them too.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So
not make any more, but just take care of
no
the ones we
more.
have.
No more kids. No more high libido, bro.
Careful with the testicle, bro.
Kill the libido. Is there anything else that you want to add?
Anything we need? I mean, any questions?
As soon as we end the podcast, I'll be, oh man, I forgot to bring up. I know there's a million things, but you can
So
find
many
most of this
things.
stuff on his Instagram. Fantastic work. Like you're just
Thanks,
crushing
man.
it. You make it fun too, which is
Thank you.
important.
And have an amazing podcast with so much information.
Which I'll come to Costa Rica and jump on.
Let's
That
do
would be
it.
So fun.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you guys are rock stars.
It's good to be here with you guys. It's a pleasure.
So fun.
We're grateful. Yeah. So the podcast is called Fundamental Health. The Instagram is CarnivoreMD 2.0.
And you respond to a lot of stuff. So guys, if you have questions, I see this guy responding in his comments constantly.
As much as I can.
Ask him legit things. Yeah, ask him legit things. You can put them on this video. You can go to his stuff.
There's a lot out there. Yeah, I mean,
There's-
there's a book. There's multiple books out there now. There's podcasts. There's a lot of resources.
There's a Joe Rogan podcast.
There's a Joe Rogan podcast because there's so many questions people have. We can't go down all the rabbit holes. I mean,
Yep.
even in 3 hours on Rogan, we didn't cover it all. But it's all stuff that I've been asked, and I love questions. And there's a lot of questions people have. What about this? What about that?
I've probably asked you 100 since I've seen you
That's
yesterday.
good.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's fun. We're learning. We're a viewer ourselves. So we're learning with like
Yeah.
all your information. I'm going to listen to this podcast myself because I really zoned. Like, it's a lot. It's deep.
Linoleic
Yeah, the little-
acid.
It's a lot.
A little brain fog.
It's the coffee, bro.
The coffee, yeah. Yeah. But I think that the take home is simple. It's meat and fruit. And by meat, I mean organs, either fresh or desiccated, like hardened soil. Fruit, which is seasonal. Don't overcomplicate it. Do those things. And I tell that to people and they nod and they go, okay, yeah. But can I eat bread? Is bread meat and fruit? What are you talking about?
So if there was one small reachable goal for everybody listening at this point in the podcast,
Uh-huh.
what would it be? Like for 1 week or for one day? What's that reachable goal? Just to try this, just to see if your body reacts.
I would say beef and fruit.
Just a day of beef and
A
fruit.
day of beef and fruit. And
Hamburgers.
I say beef because if you find my podcast, you'll see that I'm not a huge fan of chicken and pork and fish, and not the worst thing in the world, but it's not the best thing in the world either for humans. They're just dirtier foods than red meat.
Beef and fruit.
Beef
Steak,
and fruit.
burgers.
Bananas, oranges, cherries, grapes. What other fruit did we eat? All that
All
kind of
sounds
stuff.
amazing.
Yeah.
Peaches.
Peaches. Yeah. Butter.
Okay.
Put some
Cream,
butter on there. Yeah.
milk,
Peaches, cream.
raw.
Yeah. Raw milk.
Honey.
Put some butter on there. Put some raw honey on there. Nobody can say that that's not good food.
Oh man, it's better than good.
And of course, you're going to have cravings. Of course, it's going to be hard, but you get through it and then you're better off. And I think then you understand, think about like, what is the best fuel to put in this car? And I don't want to tell people the answer. I want to give them a possibility and let them test it and see how they feel. But I want them to think for themselves and question, because I haven't done my job if people see what I'm doing and think of me as a guru. I've done my job if people see what I'm doing and question what I'm doing and think for themselves. That's what I want, because that will serve them much better. You know, teach a man to fish. I'm not trying to give fish.
You don't care if the viewer hates you. I don't care if they hate
I don't want them to hate themselves, you know, like,
Just reword it.
yeah, I don't care. I want people to think for themselves and end up where that takes them. I was not taught to think for myself in medical school, and I want to try and remedy that. And I think that maybe that the right way to start that is to give people a jumping off point to let them think and say, okay, this is what I think is a good answer, but I want you to consider it and question it and figure it out for yourself, because by caring about how you perform as a human, your life will be so much richer.
Yeah, well, there's so many turning points in society, and why is it the ones? This is tested and true since the beginning of human mankind. This is the greatest food on the planet: fruits, meats. Why are those people now the crazy people? How do they switch us so well? Why are you the crazy guy now?
Because I'm in the minority, right?
You're just not the popular. You're not in the popular.
You're not the popular guy.
Yeah.
So it could tip in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. But I heard this great YouTube video. I think it's Henry Rolkins or somebody like that. And it was a TED Talk. And he said, the title is Why the Majority is Always Wrong. And apparently there's some psychology from Yale University that 97% of humans, when they come up against an obstacle, whether it's Western medicine, seeing someone with a disease, or a business trying to solve a problem, or you trying to figure a problem out at your house, humans either do more or less. 97% of people do more or less of the same things. But 3% of people do different things. And so those are the outcasts. But 97% of people do the wrong thing when they see a problem. They always do the same thing. They do more or less of the same thing. So Western medicine, I really think that it's not terribly inaccurate or unkind to say this is the problem with Western medicine, something that I'm embedded in. When we see a patient with a problem, when somebody gets sick, they either give more or less medications, more or less of the same things. We don't think outside the box. But I think that if you think outside the box, if you are one of those 3%, you may not always do the right thing, but you better do something differently. If you have an autoimmune illness, if you have diabetes, if you have obesity, if you have heart disease, you're probably not going to get better by doing more or less of the same things that got you there. You must do something differently. And if you do something differently, you are pulling yourself out of the matrix. And that is I think it's the bravest thing we can do as humans, because it's essentially saying to your tribe, I'm going to go on walkabout. I'll see you guys later. And you may find another tribe over the hill over there who's doing things totally different. You're like, oh, this is great. I found them. Or you might just wander for a little while, right?
Be the crazy guy in the woods.
You got to be the crazy guy in the woods for a little bit. You got to be brave enough. But I think that when you're that person who's separating himself from the rest of society, you are considered the outcast.
Yeah.
And that's how you do good work. And that's why I think feedback is important for me. And I love it when people challenge my stuff, because I'm not going to be right about everything.
Yeah.
I've evolved my perspective in the last 5 years. I'm always learning. But I think you've got to do something different. You've got to think outside the box. And maybe that's just a gift that I have, or a blessing that I've had in my life. And I'm grateful for that. And I hope I can keep doing it.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, we are so pumped to have you. Thanks for joining this podcast. We were kind of just coming out the gate here. I think you're one of our first guests. We said Matt didn't count. And
Yeah, it's your brother.
yeah. But thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm glad that we could be here, and then we could tell people Animal-Based Bay
Yeah, Animal
over
Based
there.
Bay.
We didn't
over
really
there.
get to tell them your story.
This is the female version.
Who are
of
you over there?
My story,
Just a minute. I don't know.
just a little bit. I guess I came to the animal-based gathering in March.
This
and,
sly guy over
yeah,
here.
I had
I
my
know.
eye on her. I
He's
fed her some
fi-
testicles.
He's finding hunters.
Yeah, but prior to that, like 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with celiac disease. So I was always dealing with that, which is no gluten, no wheat, no breads, no bagels, none of that.
So you were forced into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was actually at a time where I was entering into college. And so that was a hard time, where you're doing late night pizza parties,
Yeah,
or
you're always
beers,
out, you're always-
forget
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So things were really difficult for me then, to just have to make my own foods, and places where, they would give you your card and load it up with money, and you'd go to the cafeteria. But I had to go to the local grocery store, and at a time where gluten-free options weren't really a thing, I just really didn't eat any of it. No gluten-free pastas or no gluten-free bread. So that kind of began my journey of just diving down the rabbit hole of
Finding meat.
nutrition. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then finding meat, essentially.
But you
And
can't
so-
argue with either of you. You just are the picture of health. We're at the gym yesterday. I'm looking at you guys like you'd be on any magazine for any fitness, any health company would be thrilled to have you guys on their poster. you
Lindsay's
know?
a badass.
Yeah, you
She's
both
a
you both
badass.
killed it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really important to just walk the walk too. It's
Yeah,
really important.
you guys are living
daily.
what you're talking. Yeah,
Yeah. People can find you. Tell them where they can find you for a
Yes.
woman's perspective on an animal-based diet.
Yes, it's Animal-Based Bay 2.0.
2.0.
you just
2.0,
jumped on. Did
yeah.
your first channel get deleted, or you just jumped on the 2.0?
So it's actually kind of, I'm not sure. There was actually multiple channels that just, I don't know, Instagram was acting funny, and it just didn't let me sign on. And it was this weird thing where it kept logging me out. And I was like, wow, they're already deleting me. I didn't
Wow.
even post once.
She hadn't posted a single thing. So 2.0
Yeah.
happened organically. And
So yeah.
So if you need a channel to be accepted by Instagram, you just put 2.0 on
2.0
it.
next
I
to
guess so.
So 2.0 is the secret code.
I think that it's something weird. I mean, yeah, who knows what happened, but
Yeah.
Well, these sites are getting tough. You actually got to learn the tricks now.
well, we talked about this a little bit. I mean, it's sad that TikTok especially is super bad. You can't do anything controversial
It's
on
the worst.
TikTok.
It's the worst.
You can't. It's so sanitized. There's no ability to talk about anything crazy on TikTok. I've been flagged on TikTok for bullying just by doing a video at the gym talking about AirPods and how I'm worried about the EMFs from it's crazy. So
I know all about. I know all about.
I know you do. So thankfully the new accounts have been free of harassment because we've kept our mouths shut about political viruses and things like that.
Yes. Yeah, you can't say the C word out loud.
You can't. I already said it. You're gonna have to bleep it out.
I do bleep that word out.
There you go.
I don't bleep the language. I bleep the C word.
Yeah.
Is
that's
that
what-
crazy?
That's so
No,
sad.
I was worried about it. I was like, I don't want to tell you why I got in trouble on Instagram because I don't want this podcast. But that's just a scary world that we live in. You know?
It is more controlled than any of us know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I s-
And we
it's-
accept it. We still keep the apps. We still
You got to be in the matrix to pull people out of the matrix.
Yeah, you got to be part of it.
Yep.
So all we can do is guide.
That's
what
trying
we're
to
here
do.
for.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks
Thanks
so
so
much.
much for coming. Guys, whether you're listening to Spotify, Apple, YouTube, thank you for being here. And we love you. We're going to sign it off. You're beautiful. You're one of a kind. Smile more.